Grazie di essere qui.
Thank you for being here. We will address important things, in my opinion. And I was meditating these days that humanity does not realize, especially in recent times, therefore, starting from the end of 2024, that we are under heavy pressure, politically or geopolitically rather, from extraterrestrial aviation. In fact, one of the main topics with which I will start then, this meeting, is the pervasive presence of these mysterious drones that, just as they did in America, are violating military sites, civil airports, and the installations, and the most important infrastructures of all European countries, especially Northern Europe. But we have sightings also here in Italy for now, sporadic, without particular inconveniences. While instead in Northern Europe, from Germany onwards, there is a very tense situation that I don't know how much the Italian public, informed by mainstream media, is aware of. However, there's an almost ridiculous paradox of a humanity that mainly, in the very large majority, thinks that UFOs are a lot of nonsense, while our skies and the most powerful armies of the planet are under vigilant control and pressure of extraterrestrials, so it is a truly absurd situation that is being created because the risk of an atomic clash is very serious. That is, we are hanging by a thread. Then someone who walks on the street with this beautiful sun, these beautiful villas that are seen around here, everything is fine. What's the problem? And instead, here from one day to the next, we risk finding ourselves in an irreversible catastrophe. Why? The so-called collective West, headed by the United States of America, or rather, let's say by the Anglo-Saxon world. Therefore, England especially, and United States, are collapsing in an irreversible crisis, and the only hope they have is that of plundering Russia. Precisely plunder it. On the other hand, Western development has occurred thanks to plundering. We have plundered the Inca Empire, then we have plundered the Aztec Empire, exterminating those peoples. Then we have exterminated, I don't know, between 40 or 50 million Redskins. Such that, today we protest for Gaza, but maybe we go to take vacations in New York rather than in Colorado, where today the invaders live, and the natives, that is, the legitimate inhabitants of that continent, are a sparse number that counts less than 0. So we talk about Gaza. So the West, for 5 centuries, has lived by preying on the rest of the planet. Today, thanks to the stupidity of our leaders, they decided to put in the list of countries to prey upon Holy Mother Russia, that is armed to the teeth with 6,000 certified atomic weapons. Whatever more insane that the Westerners could think of. But as he told us one evening, the late Giulietto Chiesa, we were walking out of a conference in Tolentino, I believe. Yes, I think we were in Tolentino in Marca. So, jokingly, we asked him, Giulietto, according to you, why are they so stupid? These politicians? These heads of government? These military chiefs? And he, an atheist communist, stops. We were going. He stops, he turns like this and goes, God drives mad those he wants to destroy. What? Giulietto speaking like that. So this is happening. The West is attacking the beast that will kill it. And this beast is much more civilized than us. Understand, I am not a Putinian, I don't agree with Putin's policies, but in fact, the war, he had to do it in self-defense. He attacked an instant before because NATO, in the flesh of the Ukrainians, was amassing the army at the borders with Crimea to invade it. And Putin had warned, he had said it. When you realize that the only option left is war, you must attack first. And he did it, but he was pushed to do it. After the coup d'etat of Maidan Square in 2014 that deposed the legitimate Ukrainian president, Yanukovych, financed with $5 billion by Secretary of State Victoria Nuland, they caught the phone call. It is a proclaimed fact that is known, but people, informed only by TV news, that are the media mouthpiece of power, know nothing about it, and therefore think that the aggressor is Putin. Putin was forced to invade Ukraine in self-defense because NATO's plans were to enter Russia, conquer it, and Balkanize it, that is, to foment. Russia is an enormous basin of different ethnicities and religions that are held together by a people's spirit that the West no longer has. And so what does the West want to do, the Anglo-Saxons? What a Turkish proverb says. Arab, sorry. If you go to someone's house and discover that a neighbor is quarreling, surely shortly before, an Englishman has passed. Divide and conquer. So they wanted to foment, through infiltrated agents, religious hatred, racial hatred, ethnic hatred, and divide Russia into many small states controlled by the West to prey upon the immense resources that Russia possesses. It is going badly for them. In fact, Putin said, he tried. Napoleon and it went badly for him. Hitler tried, and it went worse for him. Now you try, but what makes you think you'll fare better? You will meet the same fate. Because Russians do not conceive a planet Earth without Russia, as we know it. So either we exist in this way, or we destroy everything, and they can do it. So the situation is hanging by a thin thread, because in the moment that the United States, not Trump, who is a puppet in the hands of powers much far above him, he means nothing. He is just a stupid, egoic and stupid one put there. The plans are not his. The plans are of the great oligarchies, aggregated in a Masonic directory, at whose top there is our friend that we all know who he is, no? The Lord Antichrist. He is the boss. So we are hanging by a thread. Fortunately, there is this aviation, not of this world, that controls, watches, and is putting pressure, also through direct contacts of their delegations, especially the APU, to prevent that nuclear weapons be used. For now, they will not allow it. They are not allowing it. But in this game, our answer, as representative of the people, is very important, because all this is happening to give us the possibility to add some other person, some other number, to those who will be able to, in the moment of irreversible catastrophe that, however, except miracles that the Eternal Father might have in store, atomic catastrophe is guaranteed. And therefore extraterrestrial aviation will rapture. Whoever has deserved it, it is meritocratic. Therefore it is not a given salvation. It is meritocratic. They have a purpose. They have the project because God wants this, to establish a kingdom, and a super civilization confederated with them in this world also. And therefore, they will prevent the total destruction of humankind, saving those who have deserved it through their works, and all children alive in that moment. This is the situation. So I will give my presentation. Then I will leave space for your questions that I think you will have. Because until someone does not put together all these things, they are not perceived because they happen beyond the threshold of our general attention. One piece of news here, one piece of news there, news above, news below. But until you put together the big picture, you don't realize. So the situation is truly very serious. So, I will give my usual opening spiel that you all know, however. It is necessary, because then the conference will be seen by thousands of people in the future, and therefore, maybe it comes across to the new person who knows nothing, and therefore the information gets to them. Therefore, free resources. As in all things, the understanding of the themes that I discuss, and that I have been studying for almost 40 years. I study and practice because besides studying, I do research, I travel around the world, etc., etc. It is very complex, therefore one must do homework. So one must study. Knowledge, or better, wisdom, is reached through study and experimentation. The proof that study is worth nothing, don't be offended, please, is the degree. How many millions of graduates exist in the world? Very many, right? And the graduate is considered in our society a person of high level that can have a career, can get a nice salary, right? Let's say, in the head especially, of the people who maybe work as laborers or however jobs. That is, they are not doctors, lawyers, engineers. The graduate is the doctor, such and such. Can you explain to me why, if it were true, the world goes so badly? If graduates were truly people of high intellectual, cultural level, and of intelligence, the world should be a flowering garden of peace and beauty. Instead it is... A bad word was coming to me. Therefore I won't say it. A brothel. It is not a personal offense. It is the irrefutable proof that universities work against humanity. That is, they produce narrow-minded people, arrogant and presumptuous, that do not change, because they consider themselves the keepers of knowledge. Instead, they are only hard disks, on which has been recorded through reading, a notionism that then does not become true life. It gives you a great specialization, maybe in your work. You are a good heart surgeon. You are a good engineer. You make magnificent bridges. But then Zelensky comes, or NATO, and bombs them. The two things cannot stand together. The good engineer, that makes the marvelous bridge. The architect Renzo Piano that builds you great things. And then Netanyahu comes and bombs everything down. These two aspects cannot coexist. Therefore, if the good engineer does not do something to prevent that his bridges be brought down by bombs, or that they be passed, walked by hordes of homeless, of starving people, of immigrants, what's the point of being an architect or an engineer? You are a failure, because your society where you, hyper-qualified person, make beautiful things, is a catastrophe. And therefore, a society that is a catastrophe, whatever you do, as a professional, serves no purpose because it will be destroyed. And we never learn this lesson. It's thousands of years that in this planet, things go this way.
Sono 12.500 anni circa che noi siamo in una
It is about 12,500 years that we are in a recovery crisis and we do not come out of it, because we have never again succeeded to establish a society at the level that Atlantis was. That was a global society, as is the current Western one. There are plenty of proofs everywhere, but they are hidden, they are not explained, etc., etc. For example, in Ecuador, in Mexico, and in other nations of Latin America, you find exactly the same structures as Egypt. Or in Italy, you find the same structures as the Incas. That is, they are physical, they are there. You can go there. If you go to a Latri in Lazio, you'll find the stones, those oddly shaped ones, as you find them, in Machu Picchu in Sacsayhuaman, but at school they do not let us see them. So this crisis, a frightening fall that happened 12,500 years ago, we never came out of it. On the contrary, 6,000 years ago we had another terrible fall, that of the flood. After 6,000 years, we are at the third. And this is the worst of all. Why? Because we are stuffed with nuclear weapons that can destroy the Earth tenfold, with everything that is on it, inside, outside, everything. Not perceived. The average person is incapable of perceiving the gravity of this situation, especially the graduates who live immersed in their small, sectarian, or caste-based world. Because we also say that India is divided into castes, but here it is the same. The caste of lawyers, the caste of engineers, the caste of surgeons, that does not communicate with the others. These are not things that I learned from God knows where. I learned them from life, because I have been around these castes. Because I like to understand how things worked in this society. So one must study to unanchor the box that they have put around our mind. There is a problem. And the problem is that to solve the problem, you must know the truth. But the truth, unless someone knows that it is the truth, because one has experienced it, you do not know which it is. This is why today the realm of the alternative, in any environment people move in, is a landscape unbalanced by truths mixed with a lot of nonsense. So in fact, it is not truth. That is, it is not a way that gives you a solution. So we do not have a problem of finding the truth to say, ooh, I found the truth. We today have a problem of finding the truth to survive, because the only instrument that will allow us to save ourselves from the Holocaust, that these furious madmen, including this government of criminals, of extremist fascists, violent, are bringing us to a terrible catastrophe, us Italians. And the only way to get out of it is the flying saucer. There are no others. But the flying saucer is a dimensional portal. You cannot get on a flying saucer if you do not have an elevated level of ethics. You cannot get on it. Vibrationally, if you cross that door, it burns you. You cannot manage to enter it. And therefore, the truth is important for this. To find it is the solution to the problem of your survival. Because if you do not survive, if you do not gain the access to that door, it means a frightening evolutionary regression that will cost you millions of years of suffering. So which is the truth? The one that Christ brought us. The other avatars also have brought us truth, but it was not the complete truth, because Christ comes to close the educational process of humanity for the purposes of salvation. Christ is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And he prophesies a time in which the truth would be given to the entire human race. Oh, am I doing well, guys? I'm in the line. Yes. Damn, I am good today. Christ opens and closes this process that in the time span of what are the very long evolutionary times of the Spirit is the blink of an eye. 2,000 years is nothing. I know people that were here 2,000 years ago, about whom we have historical memory. I met them in this time. They are the same shite, as they say in the parlors. They are the same. They have not changed one bit, because 2,000 years for the Spirit is nothing. Because we are eternal. Thank God. The emancipation of a created spirit, from the moment in which the divine being generates it, to the moment in which it reaches the 100% of consciousness, lasts 4,900,000,000 years. Do you know how old we are? Yes or no?
No?
Let's interact. We are 600 million years old. The process of creation of humanity began 600 million years ago. I am speaking of the physical man, because then the spiritual graft, generated by the solar beings, happened fairly recently. So we are still spiritual children. So we have a long road ahead, and we are playing dangerously with forces that we cannot control. So until the child plays with the water gun, nothing happens. But if the child is naughty, violent, egoic, sick with protagonism, plays with nuclear weapons, the situation becomes dangerous because he is irresponsible. So the age of these people, Trump, Maloney, they are children. Evil, but children. They play with forces they do not understand. How does a mother send weapons to Netanyahu to bomb the buildings of civil people? Us. Can you imagine you are at home, at dinner, that you eat peacefully, and Macron decides to send the fighters to bomb your house, just like that, because he got up in the morning and decided to do it? Because this is the reality. So, a very serious situation that for now holds together. Because this man, also violent, also all you want, but in fact, who is holding back the Holocaust, on the human plane, I mean, is Vladimir Putin, that despite all the very severe instigations that he has had, such that, according to the Russian constitution, would allow the use of the atomic weapon, he, for now, has not done it. And once again, on Sunday, he took the phone and called Trump. He said, "Listen, do you want to understand that? I will end up throwing the atomic missiles at you Americans. That is, don't believe that the ocean protects you. We have hypersonic missiles, and since the Tomahawks that you want to give the Ukrainians, which are missiles that can carry atomic warheads, violate our nuclear doctrine, we must respond with atomic weapons, but we will not throw them on the Ukrainians, because it's you Americans throwing those missiles, your specialists, your satellites. So do not think that because they are in Ukraine, we do not know that it is you. And therefore, if you do this, we will bomb America with our hypersonic missiles." For now, Trump told him, yes, well, certainly, Look, I won't do anything. Let's wait until our next meeting. Has it really come to this? That one must call him and tell him, but if you do this, I'll throw the missiles on your head. Do you want to understand it? Do you want to stop playing this very risky game? Because we will do it. You think that we will not do it just because we have not done it yet? If you continue, we will do it. We do not want to destroy the world, Putin told him. But if you keep going, we will do it. We will all die, us and you. This is the situation. Dear friends, so we must study. We must study. Study because the sacred science is the most beautiful and amazing thing to exist. Because the truth that these beings, by will of God and of His Son, are bringing us. Because the messenger angels must fulfill the prophecy that Christ made 2,000 years ago, that we read in the Gospel of John when He says, I will send you the promised Comforter that will reveal to you the whole truth. The whole truth, what does it mean? Not all of it, because then there is the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, the seventh dimension. He will tell us the whole truth for the purposes of our salvation. So what is needed to give us a certain and infallible compass in the great big sea of the follies that are around? So apart from the truth, all the rest that you know of alternative, of apparent beautiful, of apparently beautiful, of evolved, of spiritual, does not reach the objective of salvation, because it is not the pure truth. It is a truth with a little less truth and with nonsense. Therefore, it cannot save you. I have developed a thought. All of the counter-information and all the alternative, the serious one obviously, I believe that they are the reincarnation of the zealots who fought against the empire. They hate the oppression, but they do not want to overthrow it for an ethical reason. They want to overthrow it to rule themselves. And therefore they have the same vices of the powerful. They are sectarian. They are intolerant, they quarrel among themselves, they do not unite, and they reject Christ just as the zealots of Barabbas did 2,000 years ago. They are the same, they have not changed one bit. And as soon as they touch the truth, the true one, complete, they hate it. Because not even they want to change. So, free resources that you find. Can you turn off this battery of Tomahawk missiles here above? And you download about 20 books. They are not written by me. They are books that I have collected, put together because they are texts on which I formed myself at the beginning, about almost 40 years ago, 36 and some change, more or less. You can either download them directly from the website, or write to this email, which is an automatic email, which is not read, and which sends you the instructions on how to download the books. We have also printed them, printed in paper. One can write to this email, info@cosmicshop.it. Another basin to inform oneself, my YouTube channel, subscribe, advertise it, make it known because it is full to the brim with a lot of knowledge for free. Free. The website of Giorgio Bongiovanni, where there are the messages that he receives from the extraterrestrial and divine world in recent years. This being has shown up more often, who is called Adoniasis, and who is the father of Christ. He is the biblical Adonai. It is him, that face there. and you know that there exists a photographic document that Eugenio Siragusa took of that face that has been readapted and reconstructed by Giorgio Bongiovanni through obviously people able to do them. Yes, that one. But Mr. Adoniesis is the God of the Bible, the Father of Christ. The one who says, "Behold my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased," when the Baptist baptizes Jesus in the Jordan River. Let's stay in touch. So the events I do, you can find them in the events section of the website. More information on the secretary's email, segreteria@piergiorgiocorrea.it. Then there are the social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram. And this is a form to stay in touch that there is in the website to subscribe to the newsletter. So the newsletter too. Then there are some courses that are the fruit of my studies and especially of my experiences and of my interactions with these beings, that anyway, bless them, I have them. That is, what I do is inspired by them, and so I created some courses because knowledge is the foundation to start a journey, especially, as I was saying, in a time where to untangle the information that we find on the internet with fancy names is really difficult today. People go into confusion because there is the God, Father of Jesus, who wants the salvation of humanity, and then there is another God who likes to smell the lard of the roasted child, the smell of the lard of roasted children. But these two gods are incompatible. But people don't understand. We say, where is the truth? Just as there are researchers like me who talk about extraterrestrials in a certain way, and other renowned researchers who say that extraterrestrials suck the souls of humans, that we are their kind of livestock. So people don't understand. But are these aliens positive, negative? What are they? It's chaos. And this is only the surface of this very deep lake, or sea, very deep. Underneath there are levels of knowledge that you cannot even imagine. So really it is difficult to find your way through all this. That's what these courses are for. I don't go door to door to bother people to buy my seminars. They are there. If you are interested, all right. Otherwise, go your own way. I am not Vanamarki, as I have been accused of, who went every single day saying, buy this pot, buy that. I notify that a possibility exists to access knowledge of very high level at incredibly low costs. Incredibly low, because what I spent to have, the knowledge and experience I have is valued at millions of euros that mysteriously, although I am an ordinary person, life wanted to send them my way, and that I invested in my studies, in my travels, in my research, and to set up a structure nonetheless for outreach that created high-level content, not only in terms, let's say, of substance, but also in terms of image quality, audio, etc., that is, quality products. Then, Bocelli sells his CDs, Vasco Rossi sells his CDs, Umberto Eco sells his books. So, what am I doing wrong? That of carrying out the truth that sets free. And it is that annoys the devil. So the seminars, if you want to know what they are, there is this button on the left of my website. It opens a page where then you find them. There is everything and more, with topics that are... Do you know how I started to do these works? Before making the seminars, which are the documentaries of today. For example, the documentary on the karma and reincarnation topic, of which you all have heard about, lasts 14 days. If you think about it, it's not even all of it. It is, however, an extended foundation. There are 14 seminars. of 6 hours each, so a working day, 6-7 hours. So how much knowledge is there? You don't have the slightest idea. For Rai, I made documentaries of 50 minutes. For my audience, I make week-long documentaries. Amazing. And the topics are really many. So, if you are interested, go on the website and watch them.
Poi recentemente ho deciso di dare il via ad una nuova iniziativa.
Then recently I decided to start a new initiative, which is the annual subscription, which gives you access to special contents that for various reasons I cannot put online. So on the public channel, it gives you priority to interviews, events, etc. So today's streaming, a greeting to the subscribers, and thank you friends for the help you give me. They are all ways with which I can finance, not villas with a swimming pool or the luxury cars, but the research I do to offer it to you. This is my work. I live on this. I live for this. So true that I had a very well-paid job, very comfortable. I was a train driver, did you know? The extraterrestrials told me, look, get out of it. But why? Because we are telling you, have faith. I did it. So I would like to see all these charlatans who attack me, if it were offered to them, whether they would do it. They sent me into the world of television. I became an award-winning documentary filmmaker. They attack me, Carria has ruined ufology. I have never been a ufologist. I am a documentary filmmaker. I am not a ufologist. I have never been a ufologist. I am interested in flying and unidentified objects and in extraterrestrials, but not as a ufologist. To understand and spread their message. So the subscription is also a way to have a more intimate relationship with the people who follow me. So the cost is laughable, really, compared to what I offer. The other evening at Reds, I don't know if you saw the interview, a subscriber wrote, "Subscribe, it's worth it. You save." And every month there is a meeting, at least 1 hour long, where I answer your questions, the questions of the subscribers, that obviously there is never time in the conference, in the debate, to delve deeper. So every month, there is this guaranteed meeting, plus the priority of the streaming of the events, the priority of the interviews and special contents that are only for the subscribers, that will never go on the public channel online, where really there are, anyway, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of extraordinary material. You can also find the subscription on the website. So scroll the homepage and you get to the forum, to the form to subscribe. Here I finish the part about the content. For further study, we come to the topic of today, signs of contact, extraordinary events in the sky and on Earth. And we begin with the European drones. But first, I drink a sip of water. May I? Yes.
Articolo del, vediamo.
Article of the. Let's see. I can't read it. Let's see here. Article of September 30th, 2025. Denmark strengthens the security of the energy sector after drone sightings. After the wave of mysterious drones that happened in the United States between the end of 2024 and the first months of this year, that I extensively reported, both in the interviews, in the things I put on my channel, in the programs we made with Canale Italia. Really, we talked. It is widespread in Italy, all translated into Italian thanks to the very precious work of very valid collaborators. scattered in various parts of Italy, who give me a hand because the work is really enormous, because it is about translating, selecting the material, translating, generating the voices, edit, meaning the editing. So an immense work that, thanks to this participation, allows me to inform the Italians and others of things that the media outlets worth millions or billions don't do. On the contrary, they lie shamelessly about everything. So what happened in the United States, starting from September of this year, is happening in exactly the same way in Europe also. So overflights near critical infrastructures, airports, naval bases, energy plants, military and civil airspace. Let's watch the first footage. That is of the month of September, and it was sighted in Denmark, which is one of the most involved nations in this wave, because Denmark is near the borders with Russia. And the videos show us the same type of objects, with lights of various colors, green, blue, red, flashing, but very mysterious objects that appear from nowhere and disappear into nowhere, that the radar, neither of the civil airports nor the military ones, manage to see. They are like ghosts, they appear. Everyone sees them. The airports are blocked, high alert, and they disappear. News. Drones over Denmark and Norway, chaos. In the airports of Copenhagen and Oslo, what we know. News of the 23rd. Anyway, always September.
Avvistamento di droni di grandi dimensioni, alcuni erano grandi come pullman.
Sighting of large drones, some were as big as buses. We don't have drones of that capacity. Not intercepted by radars. They enter the airspace precisely of important installations like the civil airports, causing inconveniences, diversions of flights, blockages of all traffic. Under scrutiny, the hypotheses, including, obviously, the Russian lead. According to the Danish intelligence, there is a significant threat of sabotage. The Danish premier says the hand of Moscow cannot be ruled out. For the Danish police, the drones over Copenhagen were guided by a capable operator. Of course, it is extraterrestrial, with intentional maneuvers which obviously, where they insinuated precisely the guilt of Russia. Another footage. Here we are right in the airport of Copenhagen on September 22nd. You see, the drone passes fast, always with its little lights. But they are not small drones, they are big objects. But this is amazing, look. All green with this central red light that flashes. Unfortunately, the quality of the screen, it has two large wings here. Let's see if in the enlargement you can see a bit better. Do you see? It has a position light here, another one here. But the body of the object is strange. And the strangest thing is this manner of appearing like ghosts because they appear, and the radars don't see them. They simply realize when they have them above their head. On October 1st, 2025, it was made known that days before, on September 25th, various drones had been sighted above German critical infrastructures in the Schleswig-Holstein, which overflew a power plant of the University Hospital, the shipyards in Kiel, the ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems plant, the Haida refinery, the government buildings, even a military base in the Mecklenburgo, Pomerania. The interior minister of the END, may the Germans forgive me for my terrible pronunciation, but they could have chosen another language, these Germans. They had to choose German of all things, oh my. The Interior Minister of the END confirms various types and sizes of drones. The German authorities are investigating the accusations according to which the unidentified drones might have spied. They passed over you right on your head. Spied. So they are confused. Their declarations denote that they are not able to give an explanation. On September 25th, other drone overflights forced the closure of Danish airports, including Billund and Hallborg. Billund is the second most important airport of the Danish nation. New drone incursions. In western Denmark, you see they are. The two most important are these, but there are various. In fact, the airport of Billund, the second largest in the country, remained closed for an hour, while the one in Aalborg, used for commercial and military flights, remained inactive for 3 hours. So they are damages. Another video. They are always the same type of object as we have seen them in the United States of America. This situation in the end has pushed the Danish Prime Minister to make a statement. An official communique to the nation. A 7-minute speech. Mette Frederiksen or Fredrickson, I don't know how it is pronounced, where she denounces these intrusions and clearly blames Russia. But in the speech, she who is the Prime Minister, therefore the person responsible for the nation, obviously to whom the secret services report, and who therefore must know everything, poses a rhetorical question and says, Denmark has been the object of hybrid attacks in recent days. Attacks? There has been no attack. There have been overflights. But no bomb has been dropped or anything broken. No one has been injured or worse yet killed. Nothing. They appear from nowhere. They fly over. They stay there a while. Then they go away. Nothing happens. They are not attacks. Drones have been sighted in various places, continues Mrs. Mette, near critical infrastructures, both military and civilian. I understand, she says, and thank goodness you are the Prime Minister, that the situation raises many questions. Why, she says in her speech, have the drones not been shot down? Why have they not been discovered before? But then she does not answer. To whom are you asking it? I don't know, I'll give you my number, call me, and I will explain it to you. That is, how can a Prime Minister present herself to the nation, ask these questions? She, who is the one who must give answers. I mean, these politicians are a bit confused. It's not like I'm the one calling the head of the secret services. Listen, explain to me why. That is, you must know it. That is, you make a speech to the nation and you say to your people, why have the drones not been shot down? You tell me. Why have they not been shot down? You tell me why they have not been discovered before. Because the Prime Minister calls the Minister of the Interior, calls the Chief of Staff, calls the gynecologist, and they will tell you something.
Capite a che livelli siamo?
Can you believe the level we're at? I mean, guys. So, because I am of good heart, I am truly a person who is moved easily. As soon as I listened to Mette's speech, I started to cry. I said, I will give you the answer. So when we will put the conference on the YouTube channel, please forward it to her. Tag her the link on the website of the Ministry of the Interior of Denmark and go see that Korea gives you the answer. And the answer is easy of why they do not shoot them down. Because they cannot shoot them down. There are various videos like this. I'm showing you the most recent one. This gentleman is Deputy Eric Burleson, a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives for the state of Missouri, whom I met this year in Mexico, because he, together with Stephen Greer and two former NASA scientists, came to Mexico to see the sphere of Buga. He is a golf enthusiast, and he said, "Damn, how did they manage to put that sphere in the hole? I want to know it." Shooting nonsense makes my throat dry, sorry. Anyway, he was really there. I must have the photo somewhere that we took with him and the others who were there. And Burleson, who besides being a representative deputy for Missouri, is also on the committee of the Congress on UAPs, unidentified, anomalous phenomena, so UFOs. And he receives from an anonymous source an encrypted video, which cost him quite a bit of effort to decrypt in order to see it. It is a military video that was shot on October 30th, if I am not mistaken, of 2024, over the sea near the coasts of Yemen.
Il teatro dell'azione vede tre operatori.
The theater of operations involves 3 operators. 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones, which are large American war drones, of which one films from above and another attacks from below. What? A UFO. The video has been shot shortly before there was the new public hearing at the U.S. House of Representatives that took place on September 9th of this year. I believe we have already finished translating it. At least the most important parts we will put online. This also, friends, but after 70 years in which they made fun of all those who spoke about extraterrestrials and UFOs, and now these things are spoken about at one of the highest institutional levels of the planet, and politicians, former military, secret agents, former CIA directors discuss them. But seriously? Can you get it through your head that we are visited by civilizations not of this world? And that this news will change the history of this planet forever? It won't get through their thick skulls, not even ours. So Burleson receives this video, and he says that he was extremely undecided whether to show it or not, because he said that he did not have the skills to understand if it was a poisoned apple to create a scandal and get me out. But in the end, I don't care. He said, I will show it because it is my duty as representative of the American people, then we'll see. And so during the hearing, Burleson presents this video. And here is Burleson's presentation.
I want to cue up a video that I've been given. And as before it starts, I'm going to describe. This was taken October 30th of 2024. This video is of an MQ-9 drone tracking an orb, or this object, off the coast of Yemen. You'll see that another MQ-9 launched a Hellfire missile. That you cannot see that drone. And so I'm not going to explain
Questa è la traccia termica.
This is the thermal trace of the object. You see, it travels very fast. There is the sea below. It is not at very great height, I believe. Less than 100 meters on the surface of the water. Pretty fast anyway. The pointer of the infrared FLIR camera of the MQ-9 drone locks it, and a Hellfire missile is fired. The object wobbles a bit. Releases 3 or 5 spheres, it is not clear, that are understood to be a defense system of the UFO that continues cheerfully on its course. Here is when the zoom widens, you can still see it move. But what's incomprehensible is why the hellfire didn't explode. Now let's watch the video again for a moment.
Mr. Knapp, have you heard about events like this occurring? And what information might you have?
Allora, George Knapp, che adesso
So George
parlerà, è
Knapp, who will speak now, is a very important American researcher. He has been on the scene for decades, very, very famous, and he is the one who discovered the case of Bob Lazar and published it, made it known. He discovered it at the end of the 80s and made it known in the early 90s. He is therefore a very high-level researcher, TV personality, who has been invited. Being a knowledgeable person about these facts, he has been invited to testify at this hearing. So there was him and 3 other military, 2 retired and 1 even still serving. He is a black sailor who tells. They tell their direct experiences with UFOs and also things they have come to know from other military colleagues. So now George Knapp speaks about this type of material.
I have heard about events like this. I have heard about this event. Jeremy Corbell and I talked about it in one of our episodes a while back. We did not have the video, though. There are servers where there's a whole bank of these kind of videos that Congress has not been allowed to see, that the public hasn't been allowed to see. Occasionally, some of that stuff gets out in the wild, and it comes our way. It should be going to you. The public should be seeing this stuff.
Ecco, questo è ovviamente solo
Here,
una piccola...
this is obviously only a small excerpt of the entire hearing that lasted more than 2 hours. But let's watch the video again for a moment. You see, when the missile arrives, from here, it starts to curve. Therefore, there is a repulsive force. You see, therefore the object goes by it glancing. That is, it hits it on the side, it does not hit it with the head that does not explode. Already here it is seen that there was a sphere that came out. Immediately 2 or perhaps 5 others come out that fly much lower. In fact, just as the missile approaches, the UFO puts itself in defense mode. It does not react. It ejects these spheres that deflect the missile that does not explode. The object can be seen turning for a moment from the kinetic force it received, but then continues its course undisturbed. An anonymous presumed British military expert, whose identity is unknown, has had the audacity to say that that was an exercise balloon. You have the exercise balloon in your head, darling. Because speaking to idiots who drink any nonsense given by the presumed authority, that has all the interest in lying. But you must explain to me how it is that at a certain point the missile deviates, does not hit the UFO. Then where can we see that the object is anomalous? Because if, being infrared footage, there is no thermal trace, a balloon cannot fly at that speed unless it has a propulsion system. And this is an infrared footage that captures heat. Therefore, there is no tail of a propulsive system. But after the object has been hit, look at how the halo that surrounds it has expanded. So this presumed Englishman has the balloon in his head, who obviously does not exist, the usual character pulled out for convenience. And that the usual gullible coward ufologists have drunk like fresh water. Aha, we have not fallen into the trap. Poor Burleson has fallen into it. My goodness, guys. So very important video that shows us why they do not attack them, because the military know very well that you do nothing to these objects. But the politicians, who actually know, she knows it, must create. Since it is too sensational that these objects appear and create chaos, block the airports, create all these inconveniences, there are anyway thousands and thousands of people who remain on the ground, who are delayed. They must create that climate of tension between lie and truth to make sure that the people digest an inept and incompetent government that is not capable and does not want to tell them the truth. For this reason, she asks that rhetorical question. But really, to whom are you asking it? You are the Prime Minister. You must give me the answer. Instead, she asks the question like this: why are they not shot down? God, answer me. Let's continue with the events. 25th and 26th of September, 2 large drones violate the Swedish airspace near the base of the Naval Command. Park of Karlskrona, in Sweden, about 10 kilometers from the main Swedish naval base. So again, sensitive military targets. The reports were made by the residents of the area and by police patrol that were going around there. The head of the police, Mattias Lundgren, speaks of a large-sized drone similar to those seen in Denmark and in Scania, which is the southern Sweden, in Sweden. Obviously, cunningly, what do? They say Russian drones to feed the psychosis that, we don't want to tell you, but they are the Russians. Then we will hear Putin's response that he gave publicly a few days ago. Denmark, UFO drones. Here the article. You see, UFO drones over the largest military base. Russia rightly accuses European propaganda. This time, say the Danish military, the objects have flown over bases of the armed forces, including Karup, which is the largest of the country, and Skridstrup, a kind of tongue twister, headquarters of the Air Force. Skridstrup. Damn it. There too.
Ma parlate italiano, è così facile.
But speak Italian, it is so easy. On the 26th of September 2025, the drones have flown over the installations of Karup, the most important military base in Germany, and the headquarters of the Air Force, so 2 military sites of enormous and strategic importance. In this case, it was possible to take the photos of these drones. Look at what we have here. 1 and 2. Let's carry on with the news. They are daily. I mean, like boom, 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 boom. Every single day. On the 26th and 27th of September 2025 in Denmark, there have been new overflights on military sites, including the large base of the army, Amagin Drager. NATO announces reinforced vigilance on the Baltic. So again, a sensitive installation, because it is NATO, the warmonger, that is putting us at nuclear risk. On the 27th of September in Norway, overflights on the Orland base, key installation of NATO and seat of the Norwegian F-35, suspicious drones. Suspicious drones? They have flown over you. You have not managed to shoot them down. You have not managed to identify them. They are not, only suspicious. If they have flown over you and you have not managed to stop them, technically, you have lost the war, you have been shot down. Because that object that has flown over you and that you have not managed to block, if it had had hostile intentions, that is to attack you, it would have done it, and you would already be under the rubble. They have not done it. There has not been any attack. They fly over and go away. And this is drones sighted above the Orland base in Norway. So here too we have the video. Always the same kind of objects, large flashing lights, they pass overhead and go away to the sound of the bells. Denmark prohibits the flights of the drones, of the civilians obviously, after new sightings of the drones in the military bases. The Danish Minister of Defense Troels Lund Poulsen defines the wave a hybrid attack conducted by a professional actor. Consultation under Article 4 of NATO has been considered. Article 4 of NATO says this: Article 4 of NATO commits the parties to consult together whenever the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of them is threatened. This norm initiates urgent discussions among the allies to evaluate the situation and jointly decide the actions to undertake. However, it does not automatically impose the use of armed force, which instead is the object of the infamous Article 5. It is a diplomatic instrument that serves to strengthen the cohesion and the deterrence of the alliance in the face of tensions and threats to the security. Then I believe that they have not done it because someone told them, "Why should we gather? We know what it is, but we cannot say it." 29th of September, 2025, Equinor's personnel, which is a Norwegian oil company, reports a drone above the Sleipner field. The police has started investigations, and as always with these investigations, it will never be known where they got to. So, at the end of September 2025, this sequence of truly daily sightings has mainly flown over the skies of Denmark, of Norway, of Sweden, and of Germany. Then reports in France, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, Poland, France, Austria. So, the whole of Europe, also Italy that I have not mentioned, but also in Italy these objects, as we have seen them. I have 2 videos that were made in Naples, others in Rome, but above the cities, not above installations. So for now there have not been news of military bases or of Italian airports being closed because of the drones. This is a video of 2 supposed drones sighted in Australia. That is UFO in short in the end. Did I say Australia or Austria? Austria. So planet Earth is under, and it disappears.
Il pianeta Terra è sotto pesante attività extraterrestre,
Planet Earth is under heavy extraterrestrial activity,
ma non esistono.
and they do not exist. I believe that in the secret rooms these people are going crazy. However, the Russian psychosis about sending these drones, obviously among those without proper information, reaches a very risky level, because on the 1st of October of this year, the French military have boarded and detained the tanker Barakai, which is thought to be part of the Russian Shadow Fleet. So a Russian ship, although it was flying the flag of another country, because the French, who are convinced that the Russians are the authors of the launches of these drones, have thought, they put the launching platforms on the ships, and when they pass near the nations, they throw these drones. But the problem is not who throws them. The problem is why you cannot see them with the radar, why you do not shoot them down. But obviously in the confused mind of those who cannot understand the news, these things happen. So the ship has been... This is a photo of the moment when the French military motorboat arrives that then comes alongside the ship. They stop it, go up, inspect it. The Russians, there was Russian crew, have not cooperated. So a couple were even arrested, but in fact, nothing. There was no drone launching platform. After the speech to the nation made on the 22nd of September, if I am not mistaken, on the 1st of October again, the Danish Premier, Mette Frederiksen, warns that Europe is in the most dangerous situation since the Second World War, but not because of the drones, because of your madness, of lunatics, that you allowed NATO to rope you into this. But obviously, these people like Mette Frederiksen, Merz, Macron, are all little slaves, butlers of the oligarchic power of the great magnates of the American high finance, that are sucking money from the scroungers. Gangsters that are the Americans are sucking money from Europe to sell their weapons. and try to prevent the collapse of the dollar. This is the truth. But these buffoons, all slicked back, must foment the anxiety and the fear in the peoples to justify the war expenditure and support the warmongering wave. In fact, have you seen in Italy what they are making? Of the cities, the little parks with the army tanks where people go to visit, the children, they put the helmet on them and make them climb. I mean, absolutely insane things. Because they are preparing the attack on Russia, on our flesh also. For now, only the Ukrainians, but if that will not be enough, we will get there too. So the lady makes a new statement. She makes appeals to the risk of a hybrid war and has the necessities of a wall of European drones to stop this wave of drones. But excuse me, but all the most important military bases that have been violated are already armed to the teeth. So what do you hope to do with the wall of drones? So it's all chatter that is meant to make people believe that they, the leaders, are doing something. What do you do with the wall of drones? If with all the anti-aircraft batteries which NATO is equipped with, you have not managed to shoot down one? Even the fighters have taken off in flight. They take off, make 2 turns, and return home. Hey, no, we have not shot them down, because the grapes turned out to be sour. Hey, we have not shot them down because there was the risk that the drone would fall on the head of the civilians. They say so. Then why did you take off in flight? Just to wave at them? The day after, on the 2nd of October, there was the 22nd Valdai International Discussion Club in Sochi, and he responded with sarcasm to these accusations. Russia, Putin, and the drones in the European skies. People before had fun with the UFOs. Let's listen to this brief passage where Putin responds to the question.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, why do you send so many drones to Denmark?
I will not do it anymore. I will not do it anymore. I will not do it anymore, neither in France, nor in Denmark, nor in Copenhagen. Where do they still fly? They can go anywhere. To Lisbon, and where else do they fly? You know, people there are having fun. The same ones who used to entertain themselves with the unidentified flying objects, the UFOs. But there are many eccentrics there, as also with us. To tell the truth, they are not at all different, especially the young people. Now they will launch them every day, my God, and let them capture them too, all of them. But you understand, talking seriously, we do not have drones that can get all the way to Lisbon. Certainly, we have some long-range models, but there aren't any targets there. And this is the most important aspect. However, this too is one of the ways to feed the general tension, to carry out the directives of Washington's Regional Committee and increase the spending for defense.
Poi in realtà Putin la verità la sa.
Then in reality, Putin knows the truth, that they are the extraterrestrials, because Putin was head of the secret services of the KGB. And it was him who authorized Giorgio Bongiovanni and his group, of which I was also part, to go to Russia to meet military generals and cosmonauts, and to have in hand information and video photographic material on the UFOs that the Russian military possessed. It was exactly at the time when there was Putin as head of the KGB. So he knows the whole truth about the extraterrestrial presence, and knows very well that these objects, in fact, it is no coincidence that he brings up the UFOs. He throws it out there. Then if you want to understand it, good. However, it continues. On the 2nd of October, 2025 is blocked, always because of the overflights of drones. The airport of Munich, sighted above the runways of the airport. So temporary closure of the airport and the cancellation of 17 flights. Another article, the airport is reopened the following morning, on the 3rd of October. The German authorities have reported that the drones have disappeared before being able to be identified. So they appear and disappear. The Minister of the Interior, Alexander Dobrindt, has invited to caution, stating that not all drones imply a direct threat, but that the phenomenon is a growing challenge. But not all drones imply a direct threat. And in all this mess that has happened, there has not been a single attack. There has not been a single attack. There has not been a single violent action. And you see, in Germany, only Germany, which is not one of the most affected countries, in September alone, 2025, has had at least 172 reported incidents, many of which occur above critical infrastructures, airports, ports, and military bases. Even the press and the analysts speak of drone fever in Germany, with growing pressures to improve the anti-drone systems. The same debate has occurred in the United States. Result, zero. Nothing has happened because the technologies that these beings use are too advanced for us to even hope, as you have seen in the attack of the MQ-9 Reaper drone to that UFO. You do not obtain any result. However, this whole situation that I followed with the corner of my eye without getting into it because I had no time. I was busy with other things. So all this material, I finished preparing it this morning between 6 and 9 in the morning. The latest news were added today, but I was amazed. However, even without having delved into it, that the situation was so intense, not even I realized it was this way every single day. So in the end, I got into it. I recovered the information, the videos, and I said, bah, why haven't the extraterrestrials made a statement yet? I said, and now I'll make them do it. So I called Giorgio Bongiovanni and I told him, listen, Giorgio, but there's the situation here in Europe. I have the idea that they are always the Apu, that is, those who caused all that chaos in the United States. In my opinion, it's them, because even the shape, the aesthetics of these, in quotation marks, drones, is identical. Wait, I still have not published. I must do it. I am preparing a seminar of an entire day about all that concerns what is happening in the United States, so there will also be insights on the Burleson video. There are footages where the UFOs, the classic spheres of light, become drones. That is, at a certain point, they start to sprout wings, they start to glitter, and they start to move. That is, these have the ability to change shape. You know the Transformers? From one thing comes out another. So, at the beginning, there is even a beautiful video that an American mayor made whose name is Melham, who then gave testimony on TV. He finds himself near this water basin and is filming, at night, a thing in the sky that looks like the moon. Nice and shiny. It stays there. He films it. At a certain point, this thing starts to transform and becomes a drone with the flashing lights and goes away. And there is a professor who worked with a very important American aerospace enterprise that long before they started, some years ago, to occur these manifestations of drones in the United States, already spoke about the ability of the UFOs to camouflage themselves, transforming into technological aspects that resemble our own but are not our own, they are theirs. So this knowledge the military have it, and they have it from before this great wave of sightings unleashed. So I called Giorgio Bongiovanni, I say, listen, this is happening. But could you do me a favor and ask the brothers of the sky? I mean, ask them confirmation of the idea I have. That is, in my opinion, they are the Apu. Can you ask them? Look, I'll ask them immediately. I'll let you know. I said, all right, talk later, bye. I put down the phone. I grabbed the mouse. Giorgio Bongiovanni. Pier, can I call you? I said, yes, call me. What happened? They answered me immediately. It seemed to me they were there like, come on, ask us. And this is the message. This being answers him, Semerus, and confirms that they are the Apu. And this is the message. I believe it's the first time in history that I publish a message instead of the one who received it. Message from Samaras about the UFO drones flying over Northern Europe. In relation to the overflights of mysterious drones over Northern Europe, mainly in Denmark, Norway, and Germany, that have put on alert the European community, which accuse Russia of being the cause, Samaras communicates, we aliens, beings of light, have under control all the military bases of the aeronautics, of the Navy, and of the Army of all the NATO forces that are located in Europe, as well as all the nuclear bases where the launch silos of the atomic warhead missiles are located. We control also all the atomic submarines of the superpowers in conflict among each other, United States, China, and Russia. We have no need to control the nuclear weapons of India, Pakistan, and of the other minor atomic powers, inasmuch as they are controlled by the great superpowers already mentioned that are already under their control. So, if we control the main ones, the others do nothing. None of them, North Korea, India, Pakistan, England, and France, will launch their own atomic weapons without having been authorized by the superpower of which it is allied. Whoever is with China, by China. Whoever is with the United States, by the United States. Whoever is with Russia, by Russia. For example, says Semerus, North Korea, governed by the ferocious dictator Kim Jong-un, depends completely on China. This is a nice revelation. The nuclear missiles it possesses are Chinese, and this is a diabolical strategy by China to make sure that, in case of nuclear conflict, China would first order North Korea to launch the atomic missiles. In such way, North Korea would become the nation that would first suffer the nuclear reprisal from the attacked power, giving China the time to organize, both to protect itself and to counterattack. Meaning, kill the Koreans? Just think, these are demons, really. This is the multipolar world that the counter-information praises. I don't like it. We aliens, beings of light, are giving signs through the Apu civilization, also in the skies of Europe, after what we have done and still do in the skies of the United States, to prevent the atomic escalation in this area of serious geopolitical tensions between the NATO bloc and Russia, that could result in a nuclear conflict. Peace, Semerus and the Brotherhood of Adoniasis salute. Planet Earth, 13th of October, which is also the anniversary of the miracle of the sun at Fatima, the day in which the third secret of Fatima is given, 6:30 p.m., Giorgio Bongiovanni. So a beautiful answer from Semerus that, en passant, gave us a general picture of how things are on this world. Are we doing so badly beyond the issue of the drones? Let's go look at the news. So message of the 13th of October. Meanwhile, an event occurred that is already evocative in itself. The warmongering turn of the Trump government. The Pentagon changes its name into Ministry of War. But wasn't Trump the new Jesus Christ that they sold us? The madmen of QAnon? The one who would have brought peace? Who would have put flowers in our cannons? Poor fools. You don't know how many things they said to me because, years ago, When Trump was elected for the first time, Giorgio Bongiovanni received a message in which he said, "Trump, the ferocious dog of the Antichrist," and all went,
Caria, stupido,
"Korea, you stupid, you stay behind that fool of Bongiovanni, you'll see Trump will bring us peace. In 2 days, he will stop the war in Ukraine, he will free Gaza. Sure, he will free it from the Palestinians to make the resort together with Netanyahu." At the end, the mask of this demonic buffoon fell, and Trump is revealing himself, that among other things, is an inept politician, manipulated by the elites. In reality, he had the idea for matters of economic interest, together with Elon Musk. He had the idea because he doesn't want nuclear war, Trump, and neither does Elon Musk. But with those people that have him by the throat, they make you an offer you cannot refuse. In fact, to Elon Musk, they told him, "Listen, take care of your SpaceX, your Tesla, but don't be a nuisance, because otherwise we'll sink you and all your companies and we'll leave you on the streets. So get out of the way because you're only a bother." In fact, Elon Musk disappeared. Every now and then he says something, but he disappeared. And Trump started to obey to the letter to the worst warmongering policies that came to us from the Biden era. What has changed? Nothing. Again, a great illusion. To remain, as always, poor, empty-handed fools, as usual. So, the 6th of September, 2025, the American Department of Defense became the Department of War. So the government of Trump changed, as it had been announced by Trump himself, the name of the Pentagon, and the plaque on the door of the Secretary of Defense became Secretary of War. I don't know if you're familiar with Pete Hegseth. He is a white supremacist, a raging lunatic. I mean, he is truly a warmongering madman. Let's prepare ourselves for war to achieve peace. That's the kind of speech this guy makes. Look for a shirtless photo. He is all tattooed. He looks like one of those Ukrainian Nazis, even if they are not the symbols he has, Nazi symbols. He has the symbol of the Crusaders. He is a white supremacist. The 30th of September 2025, an event occurred that had never occurred in American history. There were gathered in the same place, the base of Quantico in Virginia, which is the most important base of the American Navy, where the Navy SEALs are trained, the FBI specialists, etc., etc. The military leadership never gathers all in one single place because if a bomb arrives and kills them all, that nation is over. Instead, these crazy people gathered them there. They were all worried. 800 generals all together had never happened. To deliver a rhetorical speech, among which was said not only that to have peace one must prepare for war, as the Romans said, si vis pacem, para bellum, if you want peace, prepare war. Sustaining that pacifism is naive, and that authentic peace requires the ability to defend oneself effectively. In a clearer sentence, he said, our task is to prepare for war and win it. That is, one gets to peace by attacking others and reducing them to pieces. That is colonialism. As always. So, what is American peace? Invading countries, in fact, they are preparing the invasion of Venezuela, with the excuse that Venezuela is a narco-state, which is absolutely false. It is not true that Venezuela is a narco-state. For example, Colombia is a narco-state, but the cartels are all in the hands of the CIA, of the mafias that collaborate with the CIA and with the governments. So the American state will do anything except waging war on the narcos. It is the usual poisoned apple to stupefy the imbeciles who believe these little stories and attack, depose Maduro, and steal all the oil Venezuela is so rich in. This is Trump's true politics. And those people they killed are unfortunate people, but they must kill someone to say they did it because they carried drugs on board. Where are the proofs? They are not there. They say it, and that's it. So we are in the hands of insane people. The head of the Pentagon and his military, 800 generals. Welcome to the Department of War, because the era of the Department of Defense is over. The era of the Department of Defense is over. We must no longer defend ourselves. We must attack. Among other things, in the speech of this, poor soul, dangerous, he said that he's fed up with seeing overweight military personnel. The military must be in shape. Even those who work in the offices must give a certain image of themselves. Now, sure, but excuse me, isn't that my own business? So, we are truly with dangerous people. So this occurred while in Europe the wave was ongoing, and the drone wave is still ongoing. Let's get to our recent days now, 2nd of October 2025. President Putin had given a clear answer to the warmongering turn of Trump with the Ministry of War. That is Trump, of the decision-makers who control him. Russia gave the United States a nuclear answer. That is, if you will use the Tomahawk. With the Ukrainians, says Putin at Sochi, this would have led to a dangerous escalation, also in the relations between Russia and United States. These are all articles that I took from Russian websites because in the West, it was difficult to find something so clear because they don't want to say it as not to scare the population. But Russia is threatening nuclear retaliation, not to the Ukrainians, to the Americans, because the Tomahawk are missiles, however obsolete, and easy to shoot down, but are missiles that can carry a vector, an atomic warhead. They are vectors that can be mounted with an atomic warhead. So, when the Tomahawk departs from Ukraine, it was calculated, managed, maneuvered, and designed only by American military and by American specialists, because the Ukrainians cannot, because it takes a high level of skill to manage the Tomahawk. Satellite data are necessary, and the Americans don't train Ukrainians to manage these weapons because they know that the Ukrainians would sell even their own grandmother in order to make some money, or their mother. They are only cannon fodder. And so Putin told him, I know that it's you shooting the missiles at me, so even though you do it from Ukrainian soil, for me it's an attack from America on Russia, so I won't just respond. Shooting at the Ukrainians, I have hypersonic missiles that reach America. I will shoot them directly at you in New York, in Chicago, in Washington, if you go through with this madness. Because the moment that a Tomahawk leaves from Ukraine, we don't know if it mounts a nuclear warhead. So, according to our nuclear doctrine and for legitimate self-defense, the response won't be conventional. It will be nuclear. On our press, these news don't come out, so the tension increases more and more. Gazeta.ru. The State Duma has stated that Russia will respond with attacks. You see how good the Russians are? They speak Italian. Ooh, it was about time. The State Duma, obviously I translated them with the translator. 15th of October, so this is from 3 days ago. The State Duma has stated that Russia will respond with attacks against the United States in case of Tomahawk attacks deep into the country. The deputy, Zurovlev, is confident that the supplies of Tomahawks to Kiev won't influence the situation on the front line. So, these missiles, if you shoot them at us anyway, you won't win the war, because at most, how many will they be able to give them? It's not like the Americans have an infinite stock. They'll give them 40, 50, but not more. But if you load 50 Tomahawks with nuclear warheads, maybe they won't manage to intercept them all, and if one aims at the Kremlin, and we don't manage to shoot it down and Moscow gets atomized, it's a gigantic problem, so we must respond. Attacking America, not Ukraine. The Council of the Russian Federation has threatened a nuclear response to Ukraine in case of attack on Russia by the Tomahawk. News from 2 days ago. The deputy head of the Council of the Russian Federation, Konstantin Kozachev, has said that Moscow will strike with a nuclear response if they shoot a Tomahawk. Even a non-specialist understands that the transfer to Kyiv, so do the Ukrainians, of the American Tomahawk is a path directly leading to nuclear war. Because when a missile that could potentially transport a nuclear warhead flies towards a nuclear power, the response will be quite obvious, that is, it will be nuclear. So we are hanging by a thread. For this reason, Putin took the phone and told him, "Oh, what are you doing? Do you think that we won't respond? We will respond. And it will be the end of planet Earth. Do you want to put it into your sick head that we are serious people and we're not crazy lunatics like you are? We will respond. We'll attack New York, Washington." And Trump, well, yes, of course. Well, actually, sure, let's do this until our next meeting. We won't talk about the Tomahawk. How can a president of one of the greatest military nations in the world be such a fool? So we are in a dangerous situation. And then who does Trump have beside him? He has that other crazy lunatic who says, let's prepare for war. So the message from Semiramis is a very clear and striking reading of a very serious situation that planet Earth is living through, and thank God, of an intervention, once again of salvation, of these beings who continue, despite the hope weakening more and more, to insist with hope that some other earthling wakes up and can be counted in the number of those who will be able to be taken away from the madness of this humanity. All of this, obviously, intersects because the extraterrestrial plan is varied and intersected by various activities, so that geopolitical activity is preparatory, because it must allow them to develop other important projects that they have put in place. And one of the important projects is certainly the landing of the sphere in Buga. Shall we talk about it? So, a small summary.
On March 25, 2025, a surprising video starts to circulate on the web. A Colombian girl named Maria films a mysterious sphere of metallic appearance that floats in the sky. At the beginning, the exact location isn't clear.
Globo no es. Eso se ve como algo extraño. O sea. No, es súper rápido. Es una pelota, no es, ni un globo.
But a few days later, a second video, shot by another person, who will later be known as Jose, shows the same object. And it is then that the place is discovered. We are near the city of Buga, in Colombia. Both videos strike for the clarity with which the object is visible, and for the incredible evolutions it performs in flight. Maneuvers that resemble those of many other similar objects sighted over the years in various parts of the world. Towards the end of the second video, the sphere rapidly descends vertically and seems to land. The man, together with a friend who films the scene, rushes to the place and picks up the object from the ground. The first images reveal complex engravings on the cap and what appears to be some kind of circuit.
The object is brought to a company named Germany.
specialized in electromagnetic detection, to be analyzed. The intent was to understand its technology and do reverse engineering, perhaps to obtain a scientific or economic advantage. But at the first tests, strange things happen. The flame of the gas torch doesn't even heat the metal. And when water is poured on the surface, which is cold to the touch, it evaporates instantly. Another disconcerting fact: when it was found, the sphere weighed about 2 kilograms, then 6, then almost 10, until it stabilized around 10.10 kilograms. It's hypothesized that an internal system, perhaps linked to anti-gravity, was still active. Under media pressure, Vélez, the man who was in possession of it, decides to entrust it to Jaime Maussan, known Mexican researcher. A decision made to protect himself and his own company. Maussan flies to Colombia, obtains the necessary permits, and brings the sphere to Mexico, where today it's under his custody. On April 29th, the object is shown to the public live on Maussan television. It's a historic moment. For the first time, a potentially extraterrestrial technology ends up in the hands of civilians and is presented openly to millions of people. The implications of what happened could be revolutionary. It's possible that all of this isn't the result of chance. There could exist a precise plan, elaborated by extraterrestrial intelligences to prepare humanity for a public and global contact. After the wave of UFO drone sightings above the United States, the case of the Booga sphere inserts itself as a new, powerful proof of the extraterrestrial presence on Earth. And perhaps also this time, behind all this, there are the beings from Apu. The possibilities are all open, and the future awaits us, now more than ever.
Come Maussan pubblica
As Maussan publishes
la notizia,
the news, I leave immediately to Mexico with my crew. And here I am with Jaime and the sphere in hand.
e la sfera in mano. Ecco amici, la bellissima, meravigliosa sfera extraterrestre.
Here, friends,
Chissà, dei fratelli di Apu.
the beautiful, marvelous extraterrestrial sphere. Who knows, of the brothers from Apu,
10 kg di
10
sfera.
kilograms of sphere.
Questa è la sfera vista da vari
This is the sphere seen from various angles,
foto che abbiamo scattato.
photos that we took ourselves. You see,
La sfera
the
è
sphere is irregular. Here, the equatorial belt is wider, here it's narrower, and these are the holes from which the optical fiber is exposed. The object, when it flies, rotates quickly on itself. The north cap with the engravings always remains turned towards the top, that is, it doesn't overturn. And the south cap, where there are no engravings, remains turned towards the bottom. The optical fiber, which is contained in these circular little windows, which are then plugged with a resin, in fact, scans all the surrounding environment. These spheres, then, have internal devices. They can easily record our thoughts, our emotions, the conditions of our body, externally and internally, everything that regards the environment, pressure, temperature, composition of the elements. They can transform their matter, become invisible, cross through walls, and record anything. So, with these objects, they make them enter inside military bases and record everything that in secret the powerful of the world plan, everything. Nobody can stop them. I presume, even though I don't have concrete information, that they are also equipped with defense systems. I believe in antimatter, such that just one of these spheres can destroy all the armies of planet Earth. This is the most beautiful part. Let's say so. The part where there is the chip. These are the glyphs that have just been translated in recent days. Still, it must be, because it's an ideographic writing, so each symbol means many things. They are not phonemes like our alphabet A, B, C, D. You compose them, and a word that has a meaning comes out. Each of these symbols, being ideographic, has many meanings. So one must interpret all of them, and then try to understand their meaning. It's been understood that this diamond-shaped symbol is the beginning of the message, that then must be read in this direction, counterclockwise. The news is from the day before yesterday, so it's very recent. Now we are translating the report, and then we'll share the message of the sphere of Buga that is written in this language is known. This ideographic writing is known, and it's Proto-Sanskrit. That is, it's the base of all the languages of the world, because all the languages of the world are said to derive from Sanskrit. Sanskrit derives from Proto-Sanskrit. That is a very ancient language that was also used in Atlantis, and that extraterrestrials also use. The information that I have is that the sphere was engraved in a secret monastery by monks. So the engravings were made by hand by terrestrials on an alien object, because the interaction of certain groups with cosmic civilizations over millennia has remained unaltered and secret. The sphere was then subjected to many analyses. The first ones were X-rays, tomographies, metallographic analysis of the external metallic body, temperature tests, hardness tests. The 16 copper pins are made of high-density, high-hardness copper. Some have a direct connection inside the sphere. In the perimeter belt, 2 of these little circles are through holes that enter inside the sphere. In fact, they are thinking of introducing a micro camera to see if they can manage to film what is inside. The sphere is made up of an external metallic shell and by 2 other internal layers that have different densities. It was found that the sphere is made up of 2 caps that have been fused separately and then united. But there is no sign of union or of welding. That is, it presents itself as a single piece. But in fact, it's known that it was assembled, but it's not clear how, because it doesn't show any sign of assembly. It's not screwed, it's not welded, it's not glued, it's nothing. Another interesting fact, the base metal of the alloy is an alloy. It's aluminum. Yet, despite aluminum being a metal with extremely high thermal conductivity, the sphere, not only does it not absorb heat but presents different temperatures according to the area where they are measured. The temperatures are different, especially under the arc of these half-moons. Since it was recovered, it has presented different weights, 2 kilograms initially when Don Jose picked it up, then it went up to 6.9, then to 9, and now it has a weight of about 10.10 kilograms, which is what I felt. Then there was the scale, and we also weighed it. And the sphere also presents different temperatures inside and interacts with the equipment used for the analyses. Then recently it has done other tricks. For example, it turned off cell phones or turned off the measuring instruments that the engineers used. Clack, it turned them off. No one understands how it does it, but it can do it. And it has given signs of being a sentient object. That is, of being a biomechanical object. For example, They have seen that it has likes or dislikes. They have seen that to this day, it transmits and receives all evidence that we still have to disclose. And a friend who is an Italian psychologist who lives in Mexico, his name is Domenico Leone, who is a very close friend of engineer Rodolfo Garrido, who is the lead of the investigation group on the sphere of Buga. And he was there when they put the sphere inside a Faraday cage to verify if the sphere was an object that receives the external radio waves and retransmits them, so like a mirroring effect, or if it really transmits by itself. So they closed it in a Faraday cage, which isolates you completely from any interference, and the sphere anyway, putting inside the measuring devices, the sphere transmits. Not only does it transmit, but it also receives, so it transmits. This is a test they did, relatively few days ago. The sphere transmits, then it goes quiet, and a response frequency enters. And while they were there, when Domenico went to Maussan's studios, where they had the sphere, they started talking and they left. There was him, there was engineer Garrido and engineer Roldan, extraordinary people. And while they were chatting, they had the instruments on, and they noticed that the peak of the waves of the sphere literally remodulated their dialogue. That is, it was like a VU meter that repeated what they were saying to each other. He says, at a certain point, a very unpleasant person arrived who stood there, well, showed off a bit. The sphere went quiet. It stopped. It no longer repeated anything until he left, and then it started again. Evidently, he was getting on its nerves. And we published this. I don't know if you saw it. When they do the analysis that the sphere responds to the Om and the mantra. At a certain point, engineer Garrido, who is a man who has a heart of gold, really an adorable person, when he has to apologize, he stays there 10 minutes. Yes, I got it, Rodolfo, don't worry, there is no problem. Really a wonderful person. And he, because the sphere has all these characteristics, perceives it as something alive. So in the end, he caresses it and says, "Thank you, little sphere," and it shoots only as he touches it, it shoots a very strong magnetic frequency as thanks. So it really interacts with people. In fact, even an old message from Eugenio Siragusa from the 80s says that these objects have a brain. So they have their own intelligence. They are intelligent. They say, but why don't they cut it in half? But why don't you cut your own neck? That'd be better. Always this obsession of breaking stuff. Who knows what they did as kids? Then there was the discovery of the optical fiber. I'll go quickly. We have already shown it. We said that the optical fiber is exposed from these little holes. This is one of the holes magnified 1,000 times. These are all the optical fiber cables inside the coating. And this is the individual optical fiber cables, the dimensions, determine the type of analysis that the optical fiber does. So there are optical fibers for temperature, for humidity, for pressure, etc., etc. Then the discovery was confirmed by the autonomous University of Mexico in a report of about 50 pages, among which, you see, area of possible optical fibers 42, count of optical fibers 52, average maximum diameter 210 microns, diameter, average diameter 210 microns, maximum diameter 350 microns, minimum diameter 40 microns. So the prestigious University of UNAM confirms that the sphere is an analytical device, therefore a true environmental scanner that flies. Very recent news. Mr. Stephen Greer, here we are together in Mexico, because he also went to Mexico to see the sphere of Buga. He is pretty short, as you can see. And this is what he published on September 21st. The news. of the results of the carbon-14 analyses. The samples had been taken by these two scientists, former NASA collaborators that I told you about before, so in June. And the results arrived in September because it was difficult to find a sufficiently qualified and prestigious laboratory to do these analyses. So basically, from here, from one of these little circles, was scraped. They scraped off the very hard resin layer that covers them, trying to damage the sphere as little as possible, which then was analyzed in this laboratory, which is this one here. It was the Center for Isotope Studies of the University of Georgia, which is one of the study centers of these, for analyses of this type, among the most prestigious in the world, and is the most important of the United States of America, so the best there is. This is the document that I have, but it is also available on the internet of the analyses. And this is the age of the sphere, the analysis. The carbon-14 age is always calculated in reference to the data of 1950, because after, due to the atomic experiments, the dispersion of radioactivity in the environment has made the measurements unreliable, so reference is always made to data before the atomic era. And the data that came out are 12,560 carbon years, plus or minus 30 years. So the sphere is at least this ancient, but it could be even more ancient by a few thousand years, at least 2,000 or 3,000 years more ancient. So we are in a range between 15,000 and 12,500 years. So we are fully in the era in which there was the continent of Atlantis. This I already knew, because the extraterrestrials, Apu, who were the ones who made the sphere land obviously under order of the superior beings, like Semiramis. So, the Apu are the Greys, basically. They had told Giorgio that this sphere was already in Atlantis, and that language that relates Christ to Krishna dated back to that time. That is, it was a sphere that already existed at the time of Atlantis. In a recent message that I have not put in this presentation, answering to the topic of the carbon-14 dating, Adoniasis said that these spheres have a lifetime of at least 150,000 years. Hopefully even Fiat will reach these standards. Obviously, an extraterrestrial project starts with the landing of the sphere, and therefore, since the object was immediately attacked, ferocious dogs, cowards, ignorant, petty and mean, attack me, mocking me on a personal level, but they have never lifted their butt from their chair, and they have not gone to Mexico to confront the experts, who are of very high level, and they babble nonsense and stupidities from the nobodies that they are. They mock instead a piece of news that should have made ufologists celebrate for at least a week, which is what I experienced, having studied this reality for almost 40 years. So, having the extraterrestrial object in hand for me was an incredible joy. Because, although I have had and occasionally have experiences, but you don't have the alien over for dinner, touching the sphere which is made of metal, nice and solid. You know what I thought? I said, but these brothers are not so distant. That is, they are with us. They are here, they are real like us, it is a reality like ours, we just have to meet. So this is a first encounter. It is an official landing of the Confederation, filmed, So they organized everything perfectly. There is the witness, there is the video, there is the object, a true fact. So what did the extraterrestrials do? You don't want to believe us? Very well. We'll make other spheres appear. Identical to the one from Buga, that fly, because they said, hey, but the one that flies is not the one that Don Jose took. It was all fabricated. But did you make an arrangement with the alien? So the aliens made a sphere fly. Don Jose, together with El Potro, with David, put a fake sphere, therefore, a terrestrial alien plot. I mean, think about how far the minds of these morons go. I don't mean to offend them, eh? God forbid, I respect them. It's just a fact. Because if they were intelligent, they would not say the blunders they say. So, after the landing of the sphere of Buga, which occurred on March 2nd, 2025, the activity of the spheres has increased notably all over the world. But since the sphere landed in Colombia, the most beautiful videos are made to be done in Colombia. And the most beautiful and amazing of all was made in Yumbo, which is at 43 kilometers to the south of Buga, which lies north of Cali, because Yumbo is here, basically on the outskirts of Cali. The object was filmed by William Zuniga, splendid person. We talk basically every day. And he told me, he says, Pierre, I wasn't supposed to be there that day. My car broke down. Then a work colleague got sick. Then another one looked for me. He said, come give me a hand because my colleague got sick. In the end, I found myself there. And the sphere arrived. He made 2 videos, but only because while he films, he touches on the phone screen to zoom and focus. At a certain point, he stops the recording and then reactivates it. So it should be a single video. They are instead 2 segments. The first is very short, you see? The equatorial belt is very clearly visible. They are 13 seconds of video here. William, as he touches the screen, interrupts the video and then gets to the second part, which is longer. But if we see the first frame, you see, the equatorial belt is very clear. So it is a flying Buga sphere that never landed, which was filmed on June 7th, so March, April, May, basically 3 months, almost 3 months later. So, not only do we have the object with all its extraordinary scientific characteristics, we have concrete proof from other videos that show flying spheres that are not terrestrial. We do not have this technology. It is possible to understand that the sphere rotates. Obviously it is, clearly. It is a demonstration because, for example, when the objects leave at a speed that the human eye can hardly see them, their energy field expands. Here it even enters among the reeds. Do you hear the noise? And it turns off the cell phones. And the object wanders around, very low, very close. By the way, there is a moment that we have identified well in the analyses, which I have not yet published in full, that while the sphere goes on in this direction, there is a bird that is coming in the opposite direction that makes this movement here to avoid it. Now the sphere rises, you see? It tilts slightly as it descends. You see the equatorial belt that tilts a bit, being a bit eccentric. And it also creates the stroboscopic effect. That is, it seems that the dots, the little circles that it has on the equator, come forward. You see? It is like when wheels of cars are filmed, the spokes of the rims. It is really a remarkable video. William Zuniga, great person.
Grande persona. And
while he was fiddling with the phone screen, he didn't notice that a photo of the sphere in 4K was even taken. Basically, this frame starts to circulate, this photo. It starts to circulate among the various researchers. And also William was saying, I extracted a frame from the video. When they gave it to me, I put it on Photoshop, and it is a 4,000 by 3,000. And I said, but this is not a frame, because a frame in high definition is 1920 by 1080 pixels. This is 4,000 by 3,000 pixels, so it is a photo in 4K. In fact, you can see very clearly the equator and its circles where there is the optical fiber. So it is a flying sphere of Buga, not the one from Buga, because the one from Buga has never left Maussan's offices and the vault where it is kept. So the extraterrestrials have many spheres of this kind, you see. There is a very slight difference, but in fact it is the same type of technology. Among other things, it seems that here too, on the North Cap, there are some engravings. From Mexico, I went to Colombia because, obviously, I wanted to investigate the matter of the sphere of Jumbo. We were with William. Who is this gentleman here? Truly an extraordinary person, David El Potro. We went there in that sugarcane field that still had the same plants that were filmed by William the day of the sphere. And we reconstructed the whole sighting, but we still have to edit it because in the various trips I made to Mexico and Colombia, I brought back a ton of material that then has to be reviewed, has to be translated. In short, there is a lot of work. Indeed, I thank once again the guys who helped me out, because otherwise, it would have been truly impossible. Here, this is a short video I made as a greeting to Italians. I am here in Colombia, exactly in Jumbo, where William Zuniga filmed the flying sphere, this wonderful video that demonstrates definitively that these spheres, like the sphere of Buga that at this moment is in the hands of Jaime Maussan, are the same thing. That is the sphere that Jaime has is the same sphere that Don Jose filmed. Unfortunately, with a phone of poor definition like the iPhone 11. The sphere was also farther away. Instead, William, here in these fields, over where we see the high-voltage pylon, was able to film this very beautiful shot, where you can see clearly that the object that flies is exactly identical to the sphere that Jaime Maussan has. So here begins another very important investigation in relation to the presence of these spheres, that we know to be extraterrestrial objects, that record and monitor the environment, thanks to the fact, today it is demonstrated, that they possess a lot of optical fiber. There is David Velez El Potro. Thank you, David, for being with us. It is a real pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Pierre, for everything, for coming to Colombia with your whole crew. Thank you for the trust and for believing in this very important phenomenon that's happening in Colombia, that we need to show the world.
You know what I say, David? I don't say we must believe, we must know. We must not believe, we must know. It is something different. Believing is mystical, let's say. Knowing is scientific, an important step. William, I'm grateful to you for being here with us. You are the witness who made the shots of the Jumbo sphere, a video that is already going around the world. Stephen Greer interviewed you, the great American researcher. He believes your video is genuine, so it's very important that today we are here, in this location, where the event happened. What was the date exactly, William? June 7th, 2025. So friends, follow our adventures because soon, all the material we filmed here with William, with David, will go online, and now we will go to Buga, and Don Jose is waiting for us. And with him, we will also see the place where the events occurred that then led to the sphere being in our hands today. We will go there, exactly where the sphere landed, and we will film everything. So stay tuned because it will be very interesting. A big hug to everyone. Goodbye, friends.
Grazie.
After 6 months, the others are going there. Now there is a Japanese crew. A few days ago, there was a Canadian researcher. Others are in contact from France. I went there already, months ago now. Here instead, we are in Alto Bonito, where Don Jose found the sphere. Hello, friends. We are here. This place is at Alto Bonito. Here we are exactly at the Loma de la Cruz. This is the big cross that also appears in some frames of the video that Don Jose recorded. We have just finished taking the shots. We reconstructed everything that happened. During the sighting, it's very important. You will see it soon. I am even more certain that it is a real case, that an extraterrestrial sphere was filmed by Don Jose, that then was delivered to David El Potro, that then gave it to Jaime Maussan, who is doing the extraordinary analyses, that you know, and that I, let's say, periodically provide to you translated into Italian. We are here, in the heart of the event, in the heart of the place where the event of the sphere of Buga happened, with the main people, Don Jose, David Velez El Potro, owner of the Germany company, and here, we can see, friends, the whole valley of the city of Buga that appears very clearly in the video shot by Don Jose on March 2nd, 2025, the day when an extraterrestrial sphere landed here in Buga in Colombia. An extraordinary event that future humanity will be able to fully understand what it means for us today. A warm greeting to you all, friends, and we will see each other online. Stay tuned. A hug to everyone. You know what I thought? Because we arrived from behind, so the promontory was hiding the view of the city from us. So when I crossed over and I saw the city, I said, oh damn, it is exactly like the video. Silly, no? You know the difference between when you see something that is far away and you say, maybe I'll never go there. Then you go to the place and you say, oh, but it is exactly like this. So I have the video of the Picacho, but here things get lengthy. What should we do? It is another sphere. Maybe you have already seen it. I would like to show you a beautiful crop circle that closes the circle, in quotation marks. Our personality is locked in many cages. Do you know the 10 Commandments? Is there anyone who does not know what they are? You all know them. Apart from one of the commandments, there is nothing religious in the commandments. A religious dictate is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. But after, the rest are all social norms of good coexistence. The only commandment that we could identify as, do not lie, do not commit adultery, there is nothing religious. Do not steal. What does it have to do with religion? Instead, we lie, we perjure, we kill, we betray, we rape. Why? Do we let ourselves be fooled by these con artists? It is not religion. How can an Italian prime minister say to be a Catholic mother and give the weapons to exterminate children? You are not Christian. You are a demon. You are accomplice of genocide. You cannot be defined Christian. Because the Lord says, it is better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and throw yourself into the sea, rather than scandalize one of them. Scandalize them, not kill them. How can we, but what kind of people are we? Have rulers like this? How can a ruler not be ethical? Because if he is a criminal, he will treat us as his victims, He will not do our interests. But why do we not understand these simple things? A person who does not respect children will not respect yours either. This is the terrible truth of peoples. Peoples are not victims of their rulers, but rather their energy and sustenance. There would not exist a Maloney without the Italian people. There would not be a Netanyahu without the Israeli people. Obviously not all. But the majority supports these people. This idiot who says, but why? But to whom are you talking? That is, how can we live peacefully and without worry and think that we will have a future for our children? I get that I am shouting. I'll lower the tone now. I had gotten into the shoes of John the Baptist. And Maloney inherits, obviously, no? But what kind of people are we? I do not recognize myself in her. In La Russa, Salvini, guys, Zaya, shoot me now. Bonaccini. It is frightening. So we are not Christians. Christ calls us to something else entirely. He calls us to solidarity. He calls us to mercy, to brotherhood, to compassion. We are not Christians. We are hypocrites, wicked and accomplices. If with our unjust riches we do not make friends for ourselves, make friends for yourselves with the unjust riches, says to the rich peoples the Lord, because our wealth is fruit of crime, of oppression, of robbery, of genocide. For this reason, we Italians are rich, and we are one of the richest nations in the world, still for a little while. Because the hurricane is coming, and it will find us unprepared. And that helping hand that we will ask for will not be given to us, because we did not give it to those who asked it of us. This is the law. All who take the sword will perish by the sword, says the Lord. So we must be careful. It is not religion, it is science. These energies are living energies that determine the outcome of our incarnations and the status in which we incarnate, the nation, the sex, the intelligence, the place, the economy, all of it determined by our choices. If we stood idle when we needed to act, we will pay dearly for it. This says the Lord. I do not want to be arrogant, but life is calling us to take sides. A few minutes are missing to midnight. The atomic clock is about to strike, and they are true news. The fact that we do not worry about it, and we think about our own business, does not mean that the events are not moving forward. So while the people mind their own business, because they are still well, these events will unfold. The projects of the powerful, either yes or yes, will proceed. Because sure, Putin called Trump, but the fact that the escalation continues nevertheless means that there is a project governed by other entities, and it will be brought to completion. The extraterrestrial project made of airport blockades, of overflights of military bases, etc., 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 will move forward. All the history that developed from the landing of the sphere of Buga will carry on. Whether we commit ourselves or we do not commit ourselves, this story continues. So we, confined to our own little bubble, will be taken by surprise by the storm, and no one will help us. This is the terrible truth. I'm not saying it to you in the sense that I am not blaming you. To me, you're already an elite for coming here to spend a Saturday afternoon listening to this fool rambling nonsense. But it is the truth. And I am not preaching blind faith. I never have. Sometimes I do a few religious sermons because I studied the scriptures, because these beings are the angels of the Bible. They are the same, messengers from civilizations of higher ethical standing that we called angels, but angel means messenger. There do not exist men with wings. They have never existed. There exist beings who fly with means. And we put wings on them because they are the same as us. They are human. St. Paul says, practice hospitality, because you could host an angel without knowing it. But if the angel had wings, he knocks at my door. I see these beautiful wings with these feathers, 70 centimeters long. I say, damn, there is an angel. Please come in. No, they are the same as us. They copulate with our women. They make children. The flight symbol is like what pilots wear on their wings. They fly with means, but they are human. And they carry a civil message of civilization, where in their civilizations one does not kill, one does not bear false witness, one does not steal, and everything belongs to everyone. And they enjoy it. They do not have wars, they do not have poor people, they do not have hunger, they have a level of abundance that we can only dream of. In their civilizations, to travel in space is a social obligation. You must do it, because you must know the beauty of creation and understand the greatness of God, who exists. Now we even have the face, his photograph. So the choice is ours. And in the face of these facts that I have brought, all those who will see them are happening. Either we notice or we don't notice. History goes on and grinds everything. Do you remember the screaming crowds in front of Mussolini who rallied them? Shall we make the empire? Yes, the empire. Ethiopia? Yes. Then tons of bombs arrived on the heads of the Italians.
Ah, ma non volevate l'impero? Quindi chi ha chiamato le tonnellate di bombe? Non Mussolini. Gli italiani che hanno scelto quel signore fuori di testa.
Ah, but didn't you want the empire? So who called the tons of bombs? Not Mussolini. The Italians who chose that person out of his mind, whose heirs we have in government today, who are even worse. But the rot is inside of us. One last thing. If you want to give us a hand for the expenses we have sustained, outside, I believe, over there in the stall there is a box, where if you want, at your discretion, leave us an offering. I thank you in advance for the help you want to give us.
Cerchi nel grano.
Crop circles, and I wrap up. I'll end here and leave space to you. I've basically covered about half the report. So this year, since the Antichrist, meaning the power system that he represents, is in a very strong crisis, the Antichrist is white and Western. He is not Russian. He is not Chinese. He is not Japanese. He is Anglo-Saxon. Now they've even taken it out on crop circles. The population is invited to report crop circles to the police. Farmers risk losses due to damage caused by crop circles. Ah, good morning. Wide awake now. Crop circles in the fields of Dorset have been branded as criminal damage by police and farmers. I mean, these people go beating the people who protest for the genocide, and then they criminalize crop circles? Are those the crimes? English crop circles. I'll scroll quickly. And I will explain just one to you. And then we will talk. And I'll explain one that enters perfectly into the logic of everything that has been today's speech. The life of this world is suffocated by an elite that is extinguishing it. But this elite has its days numbered, it was said a long time ago. Revelation 11:18, your wrath has come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that you should reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, small and great, and should destroy those who destroy the earth. The Lady Prime Minister is not doing well. Very badly. How will she be able to escape the wrath that overhangs her, she and all her band of nutcases? Crop Circle appeared on July 10th in Dorset. The field is called Buckland Hill, near Cerne Abbas, where there is that naked giant with the erect penis, which is graffitied in the rock. You will have seen it in some photos of Dorset. The giant of Cerne Abbas is a naked man with a club in his hands. This is the diagram. So, it is a spider. If we turn it around, the spider becomes a demonic face, you see. That weaves a web represented. Here in the crop circle, it is better understood. Do you see? There is a weaving. So this becomes the head of the demon. The face is demonic, you see, with these eyes, this mouth like this. It is a demon that plots, and it is like a spider that sucks to feed on the sap of its prey. This spider is sucking from the flower of life. So this demon represents the antichristic caste that is extinguishing the life of this world, human life, animal life, and plant life. This planet is dying, while we cheerfully make plans for next year's holidays, or dreaming careers for our children who will graduate with full marks, so they too can enter into the death machine that this wicked beast weaves. The spider represents the ability to trap others with words, seductions, lies, or machinations, therefore manipulative domination. The speech of the Danish Prime Minister, who asks that question to God knows who. Shame. Since the spider paralyzes its victim and sucks its vital fluids, it symbolizes entities or people who suck energy, therefore psychic emotional vampirism, and it is linked to those who exploit or drain the resources of others without giving anything in return. Netanyahu? Italian government? It symbolizes the coldness of obsessive dominion, of mental or social control. Cameras everywhere. No? But didn't there exist a little word called privacy? But where is this privacy if soon they will film me even when I go to the toilet? Mental or social control exercised on individuals and masses. It represents the demonic forces, hence why this face, that keep humanity imprisoned in the web of matter. Materialism, to think only and uniquely about what concerns the body. Forgetting, memento mori. Remember that you will die. So what's the use of caring only about the body? But I do it for our children. Lie. It is not true. It is only hypocrisy. Also, but you do it especially for yourself. It is also the image of the subtle chains, of the psychological, material, technological dependencies. You see what cell phones have unleashed, of the dark plots that suffocate the interior freedom of human beings. So as you see, the circle closes. From the drone overflights to the sphere of Buga, to the crop circles, these beings bring us a multifaceted, a variegated message, and multifaceted way of operating in the desperate idea of helping some human to escape from the clutches of this wicked beast that is extinguishing life in this world.
Grazie e do spazio alle domande.
Thank you, and I open the floor to questions.
La verità si può rallentare, si può ostacolare, ma alla fine vince lei.
The truth can be slowed down, it can be hindered, but in the end, she wins. So those who are not of truth and live in the darkness will have much to suffer. Please, who is passing the microphone? Someone sometimes writes to me, but Keria always speaks and never gives us proof. I said, perhaps you watch something else. Certainly not what I do.
Hi, Pier Giorgio. My name is Gregorio.
Where are you?
Here, I'm here.
Hi, Gregorio.
I come from Turin. I've been following you for many years online.
Are you crazy? You came from Turin all the way here?
Exactly. Yes. I know I'm a bit crazy. I wanted to hook onto what you said at the beginning about the university students and the sphere of Buga. That is, also regarding how these university students take this information. I am a university student, graduated, and unfortunately I must confirm everything you said about the university world. There is really an assembly line of prefrontal lobotomy.
Yes.
It is a totally drastic situation. I have fun sharing your posts on Instagram, and I published the post about the carbon-14 analysis on the sphere of Buga. A university friend of mine answered me. Classic answer. Yeah, but the carbon-14 analysis, even if you do it on a bicycle, it gives you 1,000,000 years. And my answer was, but excuse me, but taking into account the totality of the confirmation of this object sent from the sky to the artistic nature, precisely to the carbon-14 analysis dating back to 12,000 years ago, that anyway makes you doubt all the institutional history that has been handed down since the schools of our children when we were children. But how can you base yourself on an analysis to link this thing to validate your beliefs to what you don't want to accept? Meh. End of discussion right there. And
are you done? Should I answer? Or do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to share this experience to confirm that anyway. In young people especially.
So to this person, Gregorio, ask him, will you bring me a carbon-14 analysis of a bicycle, please? Considering that the bicycle has a very precise historical dating, nobody is so stupid to do a carbon-14 analysis on a bicycle, which, by the way, you can do only if there is animal skin, because the carbon-14 analysis can only be done on biological subjects. You cannot date a metal with carbon-14. In fact, the resin, which is a biological resin, that is 12,560 years old, actually more, but only because it is biological, you cannot do a carbon-14 analysis. I mean, even the example is from an idiot. It is from an ignorant person. Then it's not that because you said, hey, but if I do an analysis on the bicycle, it is the same thing. You must show me the analysis because I showed it to you. You bring me a carbon analysis of the bicycle, and then we talk about it. It is not that because someone says something, then that thing is true. You must give me the document. If not, you are only blathering nonsense because simply,
perché semplicemente, come dice il saggio, sembravi stupido, ma poi l'hai confermato.
As the wise man says, you seemed stupid, but then you confirmed it.
Poi il saggio dice ancora, non fermarti a parlare con uno stupido.
Then the wise man says again, never argue with a stupid person, because another one passes by and doesn't understand the difference. And then he brings you to his level and beats you with the multi-decade experience that he has. Or as Einstein said, Professor Einstein, what is the difference between genius and stupidity? Einstein says, genius has its limits.
Prego.
Next question. Go ahead. There are none so deaf as those who will not hear. Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn and tear you in pieces. Therefore, Gregorio, waste your precious time, or better invest your precious time with those who deserve it. The imbeciles let them cook in their own stew, because there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
only because he was a childhood friend of mine. Otherwise,
Those are the worst.
So, hi, Pier Giorgio.
Where are you?
Here in front.
Ah, here. Hi.
Hi, I'm excited. Excuse me. So, I am Monica, and I come from Treviso. It is not so far.
But in Treviso, are they 3 or 33? Because I haven't understood yet.
30,000.
There was the 3.
I'm joking. So, I would like to ask you 2 questions.
Yes.
So, one is referred to reincarnation, because one thing doesn't add up to me. Please. So, you once in a conference had said, you had suggested that Berlusconi had been Herod in another life. And so, since you said that bad people reincarnate into animals, I said, here something doesn't add up to me. How come he was Herod and still...
But Silvio was an animal, wasn't it obvious? He did orgies in Parliament, I don't know. What did you want?
But you said that he incarnated into dogs, like Eugenio's dog that he had.
He was a retriever. He retrieved the chicks.
Then the second question.
Yes, now I'll explain anyway.
I'll let you speak in a moment. The second is, I wanted to know if the brothers take people.
Them?
Yes, the brothers. I call them the brothers. For me, they are the brothers.
You call them well.
If they take the people who do volunteer work, who take care of others, who do volunteer work, in the hospital, who help people, that is, if they take also these people, I wanted to know.
Yes, so I'll answer in chronological order. So, God makes covenants with his creatures. This we find it. So let's say there is a general covenant that God makes with a humanity. For us, it's the 10 commandments that then Jesus confirmed, because actually the original commandments were 7, because do not covet your neighbor's house and do not steal are the same thing. Do not covet your neighbor's wife is the same as do not commit adultery. So Moses wanted to reinforce 3 commandments because it was a vice and a sin in which the Jews were particularly stubborn. And so Moses said to Father Adonai, look, Father, forgive me. Maybe they don't understand it well because it's a bit too broad. Can we make it crystal clear for them? And the Father said, well, Moses, do as you like, add them. And he allowed him to add them. But then God, if you do things your own way, he's one who, in his own way, gets pissed off and strikes you. In fact, for example, he didn't let Moses enter the promised land because Moses broke the tablets of the law. He threw them at the Jews' heads when he came down from Mount Sinai and saw them with the golden calf. God got pissed off and said, that was my stuff. Why did you break it? You should have asked me, because maybe I would have given you 10 more and you could have thrown all 10 at them. But you did it out of your free will. You must not do this with me. And punishes him. And in fact, Moses complains, says, you are a God who does not forgive. No, I don't forgive you, because sometimes God forgives too. Having said this, reincarnation, so the second death, of an evil spirit in an animal, so God makes covenants with men. The devil makes covenants with men. Because the devil, as instrument of God, just as God needs people, who in the world do his will so. Saint Francis, Padre Pio, Jesus. That is, it's not that God does it, but he delegates to others to do things to give an evolutionary push to society that we are his creatures, all right? And so he has people who decide to serve him do things. But in God's instruments there are also the evil ones, who in turn are instruments of the Father. In fact, they changed the Our Father, but it's an act of blasphemy, because the phrase, God do not lead us into temptation, is correct, because Satan does nothing if God does not authorize it. That is, God authorizes everything in good and evil, and he manages the two forces for his purposes and his projects. Because if God had an enemy, he would cease to be the omnipotent. If God had someone plotting in the dark against him, he would cease to be omnipresent and omniscient. So if God is an omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, he knows everything about everyone. He cannot have enemies, because in the moment that one wants to strike his project, God already knows it. So God cannot have enemies because he's omnipotent. So God is a different being from everything else because in him, all forces converge, the positive and negative ones that he uses to select the wheat from the chaff. So the devil is not the one who does things. He needs instruments. So the devil, what does he offer? Success, sex, money. So just as God makes covenants with human beings, the devil makes covenants with human beings. God gives you some things, the devil gives you some things. What can the devil give you? Things in matter. People who make the covenant with the devil don't do the second death because they must, within the arc of the process of God's project that can last thousands of years, carry forward a certain type of logic. So they are soldiers of the devil who always reincarnate as powerful people, wealthy and depraved, because it's what the devil gives them to repay them for the service they give him, but then it ends. Then they pay for all the evil they have done. But until God's project has not reached completion, they don't do the second death. All right? Then, as for the other topic, there, it's subjective. It depends. Because it's not so much the action that you do, but rather the intention with which you do it. And then your evolutionary condition also matters. So if I, who have, let's say, this talent in research and in the Word, that is in explaining complex things to people in a simple and comprehensible way. Because obviously, before explaining them to you, I must have understood them myself. Once I have understood them myself, I explain them to you. So I have been asked to do this service. That is, do not concern yourself with people's physical illnesses. I send you as the one who must give the food and the spiritual water to satisfy the hunger and the thirst of souls that are parched for truth and knowledge. So, if instead I dedicated myself to saving bodies, God would punish me, because he says, when you have saved a body but not the consciousness of that spirit, you have done nothing because you saved a body, but that person will die anyway. So yes, give food to the hungry, but if I can operate at a higher level that requires more sacrifice, more commitment, I must do it at that level. I cannot operate at a low level, so each situation must be evaluated case by case. Look, sometimes, Monica, I think about it because it's really heavy to do what I do. Sometimes I tell myself that it would be easier to be a missionary. You go there. First of all, you have immediately people's affection. You stay there. Thank you. I'm really happy about it because, you see, they are such simple concepts sometimes, but that we don't reflect on. We often, or almost always, are generous and good because we don't have power. That is, we bend to the lash of a powerful one who forces us to do things. For example, pay taxes. We don't do it willingly. Why should I give this government my money and then it doesn't give me anything in return? They buy weapons. They don't fix the roads. the hospitals. But why should I give money to someone and then I don't have the right to say I agree or I don't agree? That is, I gave you the money, okay, and then they manage it themselves. But this stuff isn't okay, because the money is the fruit of my work. If I give it to you, I must have a voice in the matter. That is, how do you spend it? Because otherwise I won't give it to you. I won't give you the tax money made with my work, to then buy weapons for Israel with it. Instead, since we are weak, what do? You don't pay taxes and the tax collectors come. So we submit. Now, I agree that taxes must be paid because it's a civic duty. It's everything that comes after that is not good. So it's right that we support our nation that must give us services, good roads, bridges, railways, electricity. But if everything goes to pieces, and then you come to tell me that you don't have money for schools, that you don't have money for hospitals, and then miraculously out of nowhere there's 800 billion euros to make war, then you're taking the piss, excuse me. So there are things that we do as a civic act, but we do it reluctantly because we don't have power. The true power is to be able to choose and do good anyway, because you have power. Only the one who has power can truly do good, because having power, nobody can force him. He does it because he has it in his heart. So, we must understand the good that we do, if it's a true good or a forced good, and that's where God looks. See, Jesus is the most powerful man that ever appeared on earth. He had at his disposal extraterrestrial armies, his divine powers. He could resurrect the dead, calm the storm, walk on water, heal the blind. He did things. That compared to him, Houdini is a nobody. Yet, they slapped him, beat him, tortured him, killed him, and he didn't react. Only a man with a gigantic power who could kill everyone didn't react. That is the expression of the greatest power ever seen on earth, a powerful one who can exterminate everyone, and who decides to do nothing. That is, a man. I believe only because he exists. Otherwise, he seems like something out of a science fiction story. A being like that, a Superman, or more, who gets himself killed, doesn't react. He takes the slaps, the spits. The children he had saved threw stones at him. The sick people he had healed shout, "Crucify him. This happened to our Lord." Horrible. In fact, from that error, humanity doesn't recover. It will pay dearly for it. And he is already here. So, often we lose ourselves in a glass of water, our reasonings about ethical values of our actions are fallacious because we don't have knowledge. By not having knowledge, we don't have the measuring instruments that allow us to give our life a better direction, and we lose ourselves in set phrases said by others. The phrase that his friend said to Gregorio is not fruit of his intelligence and of his reasoning. It's a set phrase that he heard from someone else, and that he repeated blabbering with the neuron off, shooting a scientifically disastrous crap, making it clear that he doesn't even know what a carbon-14 analysis is. And moreover, since usually the graduate says, "Science says so," as if there existed something called science. There exist men of science, but not science. There exist men of science. Mrs. Science doesn't exist. And as in all fields of human society, there are corrupt men of science and honest men of science. So who said this phrase and it's not true? A corrupt one or an honest one? And so that in the 2 terrible years in which we were in fact locked in house arrest, Idiots were speaking. Ah, science says it, but would you introduce me to this science? It has never been introduced. There was one who appeared on TV, Burioni, who failed various public exams he took in Marca. That other one, without hope. The bald one, the one obsessed with appearing, who started doing the ads for the bacteria of little sponges. So we are badly off, Monica, a disaster. So good must be evaluated. That's why I always invite you to study, because the most precious good that there is in creation is knowledge. In fact, what does that passage of Scripture say? The dead are not those who are in the tomb. They are those who are inside a body that eats, walks, breathes, but in fact their consciousness is dead. Their life is a repetition of set phrases and of facts thought by others, but not decided by them. Someone decided that gender was beautiful one day. They made 2 or 3 films, some TV series, and there go possessed parents who don't realize that that is the pipeline to make pedophilia a socially accepted fact. And so they run into schools happy like cats with kibbles because what are they called? The drag queen, who explains inclusivity to children, which basically means taking it in the rear. This inclusivity. We include. Anyway, we're used to it from the government that includes continuously.
Bisogna essere inclusivi.
One must be inclusive. All right, you do it then. I am a traditionalist. Questions, please. You must have the microphone.
Good evening.
If you don't have the microphone... Hi, yes.
I'm Carla. I am from Bassano del Grappa.
Hi, Carla.
Where they make the grappa, but it's called Bassano del Grappa because it's under Mount Grappa.
Ah, I understand, that it's full of grappa.
One can drink the grappa too. So, you earlier have... You have foreshadowed us a nuclear world war because...
Me?
In the sense that Putin said to Trump, that is, stop it, because otherwise I'll...
But excuse me, they're nearly throwing nuclear missiles on his head. What else must he do?
But what do the extraterrestrials say regarding this?
For now, they won't let him do it.
Sorry, I meant to say. If, let's hypothesize, a nuclear war should happen worldwide, even the extraterrestrials would be involved because they are in the galaxy.
No, my dear.
This would upset the whole galaxy.
No.
But they wouldn't want us to have a nuclear war, I believe.
Yes. Shall I explain it to you? I'll explain it to you. It's obvious that they have a project. So first of all, they can sit on an atomic bomb, make it explode, and nothing happens to them. I have a photo of a flying saucer that landed, resting on the ground, in front of the nuclear mushroom. An official photo of an atomic experiment that escaped them. They didn't notice it because of the extreme brightness. There's not the atomic mushroom yet. There's the plasma bubble at millions of degrees. Of the first microseconds of the explosion, therefore the flying saucer is in backlight and is all black, and it blends with the rest of the landscape, but it's an Adamski-type flying saucer parked on the ground, and it's there, nice and peaceful, and the extraterrestrials are enjoying the show of the atomic explosion, which according to the accounts of those who have seen it for real, it's a crazy show of lights, colors, terrible, demonic. Therefore, the extraterrestrial science has no problem with the atomic weapons. For them, it's not an issue of life, risk. It is for planet Earth. Obviously, you said it well, if planet Earth explodes. It becomes a problem of the galaxy, at least of a part of the galaxy, surely of this branch of the Milky Way, because it generates a chain effect. But above all, the most frightening thing that the terrestrial scientists don't know is that, given the particular symbiotic relationship that our planet has, which is a very particular planet, Earth is a very particular planet. It's considered sacred also by the extraterrestrials. If Earth dies, the Sun dies. If the Sun dies, a black hole is created that sucks in the whole galaxy. Therefore, it becomes a frightening problem. Therefore, Earth will not explode. We can rest easy. Because in the moment in which the first atomic missiles leave, with the intention of a total nuclear war that involves the nuclear powers, therefore China, Russia, United States, and the minor powers, they invade the planet. In less than 10 minutes, they stop everything and conquer it. Estimate 2,400,000,000 deaths. And this God, for now, has in mind to make it happen because he is not angry, worse. God has almost repented of having made this humanity. Therefore, he wants to mark the worst spirits and the conniving peoples, just about the number of Westerners, 2 billion and a bit more, who have done nothing to stop this Holocaust. In fact, Our Lady of Fatima says, if the peoples should not oppose themselves, I will be forced to leave free the arm of my Son, and there will come a destruction that humanity has never known. Jesus said that it will be worse than in the days of the flood. Therefore, they will save the planet. They will take away a few million people, and the others will be left to rot in the atomic fire and in the radiations. After which, Jesus Christ will manifest, take possession of the planet. With the military force of the extraterrestrials, he will deport those still alive to primitive planets, where they will die eaten by ferocious beasts. They will reincarnate in animals preyed upon by those ferocious beasts for about 700 million years, to make them understand that even God on his part, gets fed up when you keep at it, saying it and doing it. Finally, he says, now I've had enough, I'm stepping in. This will happen. I obsessively dedicate myself to this activity in the attempt, perhaps foolish and stupid, to soften the Father and spare to this most beautiful planet the havoc of an atomic war. I tell the Father, but listen, you are omniscient, you are omnipotent, you are omnipresent, but take them away. Take your elect. You save them, and you deport the others. No, he wants that the nuclear fire remains engraved in the perverse spirits of the powerful and of the conniving peoples, so you understand it that his creation is sacred, and you cannot touch it. For now, he has this idea. I hope that he changes it. However, it is up to him. I do whatever I can. Therefore, you can rest assured, humanity will not become extinct. Planet Earth not only will not explode, but here there will be a marvelous society. The beauty and the magnificence of the society of the future that there will be on this planet is something so beautiful and fantastic that you cannot imagine it. For the others, however, it will be a big problem. For those who have done nothing, who have remained indifferent or worse, have participated directly, big trouble. Therefore, the problem is not the planet. The problem is that each person must look inside himself and say, what am I doing? Then, free will, everyone can do whatever they want. Question? Thanks to you.
Here I am. I'm up here, Pierre, up high.
Hi, okay. From the celestial spheres, hi.
I'm Giorgio from the province of Vicenza.
Hi, Giorgio.
The God that you say, is that the God of the Old Testament? who seems to me more like a warmonger than a God of love who says do not kill, and then orders to kill all the surrounding peoples.
No, that God who orders to kill the surrounding peoples is not Adonai. It's Yahweh. See, he's already pissed off.
How does the connection of Christianity reconcile with the Godfather of the Jews? I don't know if I have explained myself.
Yes, you have explained yourself very well, but evidently you don't know the scriptures. That is, you are talking about something by hearsay. What's your name again?
Giorgio.
Giorgio. I say it with respect, Giorgio. I don't want to be offensive towards you, but what you speak of doesn't exist. Christ in the Gospel, if you go to read the Gospel, have you ever read the Gospel? Look, Dennis, you come forward and you repeat it. Have you ever read the Gospel, Giorgio? All of it. And the Lord says, either you repent or you will all perish. What is he referring to? It will be worse than in the days of the flood. You will perish in the fire of Gehenna. That is, Jesus is terrible in the threats that he makes. You will not see me anymore until you say, blessed he who comes in the name of the Lord. Therefore, what you speak of is a God that doesn't exist, not even a Jesus that doesn't exist. There exists a God of justice. The God who kills is not Yahweh. Yahweh is the God of matter. That is Lucifer. That's him. The Father of Christ is called Adonai, which means the Lord. And that God of vengeance, which is a biblical language, he avenges those who destroy his creation, who are fomenters of death, of destruction. Those, God exterminates them. Jesus says it, it will be worse than in the days of the flood. The Holy Mother prophesies it, the most beautiful being, loving and merciful. Therefore you talk about a religion of which perhaps you have understood nothing, or you have read it incorrectly, or you have liked some passages more, but you've skipped others. But Jesus is terrible in the threats that he makes. God is an exterminator of his enemies. He is tolerant, he waits. In fact, to this day, it doesn't seem to me that the pedophiles disappear in the fire of Gehenna. They continue to rape the children, but he gives a deadline. Jesus invites to suicide. Hang yourselves to a donkey millstone, which is a stone that weighs tons, and throw yourselves at sea. Kill yourselves. The penalty that you will pay is less than that of violating a child. Therefore, we are not talking, as you say, Giorgio, with respect, but you're speaking to me of killings as if they were arbitrary. That is in virtue of the very serious sins committed by man. There the wrath of the Father is unleashed, to defend those who are good, who love him and who respect the law. Because until today, for thousands of years, these bastard sons of Cain have given us such hell, burning us in the squares, hanging us on the crosses, torturing us in the fetid cells of their prisons. This they have done to us who love beauty, truth, love, and brotherhood. And so, what do we do, Giorgio? We implore justice to the Father. The righteous go to the Lord and tell him, Lord, when will you avenge our blood? And Jesus answers them, you should rest a little longer, because the number of those who would be killed as you were has to be completed. Therefore, you have misread the scripture, Giorgio, or you have not understood it. Therefore, you speak of a God that you don't know. God is horrible with his enemies. The true God, who is not the one who smokes, the lard of roasted children, that one is Yahweh, who sends the Jewish people to exterminate, to conquer with violence. Adonai didn't want this. He wanted the union of peoples, the brotherly union. That was the election of the Jews. It wasn't because they had to subjugate the others and enslave them. It was to be the people that brought the word of God and the lived example. Instead, it's a stubborn people, disobedient. That instead of bringing together the humanities as brothers, which was their task, it crushes them, and they will pay dearly for it this time too. Therefore, you are speaking to me of a God that I don't like. I like a God who defends, sooner or later. However, for now, it's been 2,000 years that we take hits. Where is the wrath of God? I haven't seen it yet. And I pray every day that it comes because I don't recognize myself in the powerful of this world. I don't like them. And I like those who are in solidarity with them even less. So, let's remember, friends, the fundamental base of peace and brotherhood is justice. Without justice, there is libertinism and desolation and self-destruction. There must be justice. There must be ethics. We cannot have rulers and criminal governments that do all sorts of things. We are victims of satanic hypnotisms. The parties, party means divided. I don't need a political color. I don't need an ideology. I need, like all human beings of this world, of a house where to sleep, of food to eat, of a doctor who cures me, and of good relationships, and of politics. The parties divide us. The ideologies divide us. It's the usual little game of putting us one against the other. Then backstage they gorge themselves at our expense. Both of them, the left with the right, the center, right with the left, they are all part of a clique. And this, I tell you, I have done politics. I know how it works. They all stand together eating from the manger of our stupidity. And we are there, like drunkards, following these lunatics or these faces. Bah, I am starting to swear. It's better that I stop. Therefore, this God, for me I say, what are you waiting for? And he tells me, but I want to save someone still. Have faith because I am a just God. Whoever will suffer the injustices, I'll compensate them. But whoever is cause of the injustices, I'll make them pay dearly. It's written in the law, do not steal, do not kill, etc., etc. Therefore, we must be careful when then we start to talk about God. That he has ears like the elephant Dumbo in the tail, then he hears you and there are problems. Because you see, God's issue is that he doesn't load karma. Whatever thing he decides to do, he can do it, and he has no karma, never. And when he decides to strike, he strikes, he kills, he exterminates, he sterilizes, or he creates. But he does it always for the sake of good, of balance in his creation. He doesn't do it arbitrarily, and then he is a jealous God. Now, in this regard, Adonai is partisan. The scripture says it, if he falls in love with some creature that serves him in a certain way, he protects it for himself. He guards it. He makes a private pact with it. That in the gospel is called the consecration. In fact, Jesus says, these ones, Father, you have entrusted them to me. Remember them, eh? Therefore, you guard them for me. What does it mean you guard them for me? They have special treatment. They are not in the ordinary logic of the human mass because they serve God with love and passion and faithfulness, and God rewards them. He forgives them their little sins, their human weaknesses, but they are faithful. So in fact, we chatter about God, but God is a very complex entity. So complex that nobody has understood yet. Not that I understood it. I did understand something, though, thanks to my experiences, my studies. And he's someone you'd better get along with. I assure you. Okay, the last question. So, I have 1 hour per month dedicated to answering subscribers at a cost that is a bit more than a restaurant dinner these days. Then you see, for me, it represents an aid that helps me carry this work forward. That is, it costs a lot of money to do any work. It's not that you do it for free. See, here too the manipulation has produced hordes of imbeciles who parrot nonsense. Ah, Karia does it for money. No, I don't do it for money, I do it because I have a mission. And if you knew what I had to live through to get to do this, you would run for the hills. Obviously, in a society where there is money, how do I pay for The trips, the car, the gasoline, the cameras, the monitors, the microphones. How do I? I need money, obviously. The problem is not the money, it's how I spend it. Come and see how I live. I'm always buried in the office or around the world. I gave up on having a family because the extraterrestrials asked me to. We need your availability 100%. You can have a family later. You're eternal anyway. What do you care? Because,
dice il Signore,
says the Lord, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. See, today you are here. There was a period, many years ago, early 90s, that when they told me, leave the railways, I spent 3 months of hell. It's not like they brought me the ride contract or a checkbook of blank checks. On their word, leave the railways. Would you do it? For me, I had solved the problem of my economic survival. I was making more than 3,000 euros per month. They were in lira. But the purchasing power was the same. I could completely destroy a railway station with the train. They wouldn't have fired me. I had 40 days of vacation per year. I could go on sick leave whenever I felt like it. Well, really. Amazing. So I thought about it. But I was 40 years old. What do I do? I mean, a leap into the void like this. For these beings.
Intelligence. So, have you always been like this since childhood? Special?
Yes, I've always been an idiot, but I tried to solve this problem, so in the end I decided. I got a brilliant idea. I pretend to be smart.
You're too ahead, I mean. I don't know if it's them making you talk.
Every operator that they choose and that accepts these difficult and complicated missions becomes a genetically modified organism. Because it's complex, you don't realize. There is this aspect here that I explained to you. The facts, the news, this for me is child's play. The problem is what's behind the scenes. Because the demonic forces, which are real beings, that permeate in a very intense way all of the etheric layer of the planet, they attack me at every turn. I constantly endure searing disappointments, betrayals, because the devil does everything to make me fall. I take on the difficulties of the brothers who need help, advice to solve a problem, because having this connection means I have a solution for all problems. And so my life is a sort of confessional of Calvary, where not only do I have to carry out the things I have to do, but I must, that is then the awakened one, must be helped. I mean the fact that someone gets up and understands that extraterrestrials exist. It's the change that you must make in your life. Believing in UFOs, even Totorina maybe believed in UFOs. But the awakening is not that. The awakening is that you change. You take hold of your life and transform it. From there, all hell breaks loose. So it was a terrible time for me. Then in the end I said enough. I got tired of remaining in this state of indecision. I'll be like that guy. I burn the ship so I can't go back. I resign. I'll be forced to move forward. And I did so.
Were you threatened? From that channel there?
I had signals.
And so sometimes maybe you say everything because...
Last question.
Hi, Pierre.
Hi. So it's complicated to do what I do. It's what you don't see that's the biggest problem, not what you see.
Hi, Pierre. I'm Davide.
Hi. Sorry, it's...
No, on the contrary.
You know, senile dementia starts to knock.
Thank you for coming here to Fontaniva.
Thank you.
I had 2 things to ask you.
Yes.
The first, your opinion regarding this fact they're talking about on television of the comet 3I Atlas.
So,
and?
Yes.
The second question. If you could confirm and explain something regarding the case of Valiant Thor.
Yes. So, 3-eye atlas, to this day, I have no certainty of what it is. I talked about it the other evening with Red Ronnie. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, it fits.
But I preferred to emphasize, rather than the nature of 3-eye atlas, I preferred to put the emphasis on this Harvard professor who gets interviewed all over the world, and that he speaks clearly of alien threat. And so seeing that there's this, it's the opposite faction that set up this can. So, to create a mystery, a fictitious one, feed it, always talk about it, apparently suits them. And we always fall into this trap because everyone talks about 3-eye atlas, and nobody reflects on a very simple fact. But for God's sake, we have the boogosphere in Mexico, with the analyses, the optical fiber, the carbon-14, receives and transmits, resonates, and responds to Hindu songs, responds to the Om, right? But who cares about 3-eye atlas? First of all, it's a very slow object. 200,000 kilometers per hour is laughable because the speed of light then. I'm preparing something because I have nice videos that show you that the speed of light for cosmic distances is slow a turtle. 3-eye atlas, 200,000 kilometers per hour. Light, 300,000 kilometers per second. It cannot be an alien object. Or if it is, it's some unlucky civilization. The unlucky ones, who for some karmic reason got lost. But they travel at laughably slow speeds for the universe. To travel in the universe, the extraterrestrials either use wormholes, Einstein and Rosen bridges, distortions, or they use speeds 100,000 times the speed of light, because cosmic distances are frightening. So an object that goes at 224,000 kilometers per hour at most is a turtle, not even an ant. It's slow as death. There's a cancer of alien. So? But unfortunately, we all fall into the trap of sensationalism and the strategy of distraction. So, at this moment when civil society has in its hands an alien object, extraterrestrial, demonstrated by scientific evidence at hand, do you know how much I care about 3-eye atlas? I'm not interested. Perhaps also, as this little professor with a Mickey Mouse face says, even if it really were a negative alien society. But there's the Confederation. There's Jesus Christ on earth. So what's 3-eye atlas to me? So it's a shitty piece of news in the whole world there talking about this effing 3-eye atlas. See, in the end, the swear words come out of me anyway. And it irritates me that we always fall for it. Pierre, what is 3-eye atlas? What a pain. If there were someone who asks me, Pierre, what must I do to change and put myself at the service of our Lord Jesus Christ, who got himself slaughtered like a lamb on Easter Day? For us, nobody ever asks me this question. Bullshit. Nonsense. Sorry, I'm not angry with you, obviously. But we are like this. A bunch of manipulated imbeciles who don't distinguish. We don't know how to distinguish. The stupidities birthed by the depraved minds of these idiots. That idiot there. But why? Aren't they shot down? But you fool, you have to tell me. We elected you for that reason. You get paid for that. Who are you asking? Go to the head of the secret services. Go to the scientists. Ask them, why are you telling me on live television to the nation? You're also stupid. You don't even realize the nonsense you shoot out. Like that other one. What's the name of the lady that the UN sanctioned? The Italian, because she talks about the genocide?
Albanese.
Did you see Maloney at the Congress? And why that Albanese who speaks badly of Segre? Ah, Segre, great person. Amazing. But how does the Italian people have such people in government? That is really, there is 3I Atlas. I mean, I get depressed. I get depression. I say, but where do people live? The mafia controls 70 to 80% of the economy of Italy. That's why the mafia cannot be shot down. Italy would collapse. These are real problems that we should be interested in, not 3I Atlas. Nothing. It's a flat brainwave. Carrier gets depressed. A disaster we have, a desperate need to change, because we are dead walking people. We don't realize that history is, a great history, is sliding under our feet and on our very heads, and we sleep, simply. So what is mine? A desperate attempt to remove that layer of soot and fog that prevents people from taking note of the terrible reality. Today, at atomic risk, from evening to morning, there is a humanity of madness. In fact, Mr. Rega, inhabitant of Mars, in a communication with an American anthropologist said, the common man, well-educated, so the graduate, the freelance professional, the doctor, engineer, professor, attorney, is a madman according to our standard of civilization. That one there is a madman. Someone who works at Otto Melara, who designs weapons for Leonardo, that is a criminal. He does nothing but produces instruments of death. He's responsible. Because if nobody went to work in the weapons industry, make the weapons yourselves. Instead, they make weapons, they earn money, and they send us to get killed. You do it. I won't go to kill other poor people like me. They are the cause. They create poverty so that people go to become banker, carabiniere, policeman, our children who then beat us in the street when we ask justice from the government we elected. Shame. 800 billion for weapons. Shame, and what does the people do? Nothing.
Alleluia. Va bene. Valiant Thor.
Yes, Valiant Thor. Valiant Thor is a Venusian who was hosted at the Pentagon for 3 years. He brought a message to the President of the United States, trying to convince them to stop with the nuclear experiments. There are photos of him and his group. There is another boy and a very beautiful girl. The Venusians are very beautiful. I have encountered some incarnated on Earth because they have a distinctive appearance. Eugenio had explained it to me, so I recognize them when I meet them. I have met 2 or 3 of them. Yes, more or less. And he had fun. Imagine, the Americans were so obsessed with control that basically they had put in front of the door of the room that they had given him, where he was staying, of the apartment. Let's say so. I believe in a hotel. Now I don't remember. There is an American researcher who talks a lot about Valiant Thor because he knew him personally, who is called Strange. Frank Strange, I think, who wrote a book titled A Stranger at the Pentagon. Stranger at the Pentagon, I think that it never came out in Italy. He is a researcher who operated until relatively recently. Roberto Pinotti, for example, knew him personally. And Strange tells various episodes of Valiant Thor's life because they knew each other. Basically, the Americans put guards at the door, and they had given him a badge to be able to enter and exit, only that he materialized and dematerialized. So he entered and exited whenever he pleased. And sometimes he played tricks on them. He got there, and he made them see his hand like this. He had nothing there, but with his mind he projected in their head that the badge was there. Or he went out. He dematerialized. They thought he was inside, and then they said, "But were you outside? Were you inside?" And he laughed. He says, "They are so obsessed with control. Even knowing that he could do it, they still had to put the guards." He tried to save Bob Kennedy. He told him, "Bob, don't run for the elections this year. They will kill you." Because Kennedy had that change, where from being a president elected by the mafia becomes a president of peace, because he had a contact, I believe it was, Adamski, who organized it for him. And so, after the assassination of John, he got to know Bob because he entered and exited from the Pentagon, from the White House. That is, he had authorizations at very high level because he lands with the flying saucer in the outskirts of Washington. The police are notified. They get there. And when they get there, kind of, like the film The Day the Earth Stood Still from '51, he says, "I am an extraterrestrial, take me to the president." They call and say, "There is an alien here, he wants to speak," and so they took him immediately. He took off his suit, they tried to pierce it, burn it, nothing. It was impossible. A very thin, very light material, but in fact they couldn't manage to scratch it. And after 3 years he went away. He participated in a meeting in the garden of the contactee's house, Howard Menger, and there they were photographed. So there is a series of 3, 4 very sharp photos where they can be seen well. He is a handsome young man. They are handsome young people, these two. Valiant, his friend, and the girl. That anyway, as you know, that Menger also had contacts with the Venusians. A beautiful story. Nothing has changed, not even that time. So the interaction with the extraterrestrials has been pervasive in modern times, to try to prevent us from getting to this frightening situation that we are living. But no, the human being doesn't change. There also exists a long history of extraterrestrial diplomacy, diplomatic meetings. They never came to a conclusion because the financial elite never wanted to hear about it, because it is linked above all to the war industry and they need wars. That is, the capitalist system by its nature needs regular wars to reset the debt and restart the plundering. Have you ever thought about it? What's the use of capitalism? Capitalism is holding back a huge amount of money that will never become real goods. We don't need money. We need to extract, transform, build, and distribute. If we removed money from the equation, we would free the sciences, so we would have an amazing technological development. The new technologies would be made immediately available. We would live a life of unrestrained luxury. We must only decide that everything is everyone's. Of course, then there are talents of various levels, but how do we solve the problem? We establish that the minimum standard of living is so high that you access the superior levels only because you have a passion for serving society. But you guarantee to all the people of the earth an excellent level of survival and guaranteed well-being that not only satisfies the fundamental needs, that is, to nourish oneself, to dress oneself, to cure oneself, etc., but it also gives you art, culture, science, etc. The surplus is for the elite tiers of geniuses and of mission-driven people who dedicate themselves to specific and more demanding things. A humanity like this doesn't need politicians of... In fact, in their world, politics doesn't even exist. There exist the scientists who teach to solve the problems of society. Because all of us human beings all need the same thing. I repeat, a house, some food, a profession that you like because you can't just sit at home doing nothing. Each one of us needs to express his talent, who in music, who in engineering. So you want to be an engineer? Please, society must provide you all the instruments so that you become an engineer. How many geniuses died of hunger in Burundi? Or, what do I know? How many Palestinians would have been great artists, great talents? So we are a humanity of crazy people. We go after stupid things, pieces of paper, capitalism. But what do I need to accumulate money for? For what? What is the purpose? And I wrap up with a reflection. Why does the rich person go crazy and become a criminal? Because until you are a common person, and so you get by, you make ends meet, but you are always on the edge with paying the bills, and you have to get the mortgage for the house and the mortgage for the car. You manage, but you are always there, stretched thin. But in the moment in which you reach an abundance, that you can't even spend it in 10 lives, that you can afford those yachts, that just to move them, to make them go from America here, you spend millions of euros, because they are voracious monsters of oil, of fuel. That person in the end, when he shuts himself in his room and goes to the toilet, he poops like the rest of us. So these people who have this spending power, but in the end, are prisoners of the body. The body has 5 senses. So when you have satisfied them all, you go into depression because with that money, you feel like God. But then, what's the only thing you can do? Degenerate in the senses, because you can afford everything here, so that you become a pedophile, that you become a rotten drug addict. Then you get yourself cured in the super luxurious Swiss clinics, as Agnelli used to do. But they go crazy because all that money gives them the sense of omnipotence. So they become gods of evil. To express their sense of omnipotence, given to them by money, they must destroy. Because since they are selfish and they don't manage to create well-being, they must create unwellness. Here, in creating unwellness, they satisfy their sense of omnipotence. So they are monsters.
Quindi gli extraterrestri, e chiudo.
So the extraterrestrials, and I wrap up, when those who travel in the universe, when they find civilizations, the first thing they look at is if they have money. If they have money, they are unevolved. Because money is the first thing that must be eliminated. It makes the human being go crazy. It is an artificial toxin introduced into the natural world. Instead, we must enter into the cycle of the planet and be in harmony with its cycles. You cannot produce something that gives you well-being, while it intoxicates the planet and therefore your food, your water, your air. It is madness. But why do you do it? Why? Don't we close the production chain that should end with recycling 100% of the toxic produced? Because it costs money. Because I must save. I must earn more. So money makes us go crazy. It makes us become mad. That is, it leads us to being a suicidal humanity. The rich with their super luxury boats navigate in the seas that they are killing with pollution. This is the human race, a bunch of crazy people.
E come diceva Giulietto Chiesa.
And what did Giulietto Chiesa use to say? Good luck to everyone. Actually, no, the other one was good trip around the sun. Sometimes I don't know whether to hope that it ends soon, or if God gives us really a little more time. I don't know.
Comunque, grazie.
Anyway, thanks for coming.